The war begins. Pride, wrath, and the gods. The story kicks off not on Earth, but in the sparkling halls of Olympus, where ambrosia flows like wine, and the air practically glows with divine light. The immortals have gathered to celebrate the wedding of Peleus, the greatest of mortal heroes, and silver-footed Thetis, the most stunning of sea nymphs. Golden tables overflow with celestial feasts, and the muses sing sweetly of love, triumphing over fate. But even in this moment of joy, the seeds of disaster are being sown. Suddenly, Eris, the goddess of discord, crashes the party, her face twisted with spite because she wasn't invited. She's held onto her anger for ages, and now it's time for her to get back at the proud Olympians. From her robes, she pulls out a golden apple, flawless in its beauty, with a message that will seal the fate of many. For the fairest. The apple sails through the perfumed air and lands between three goddesses, each one convinced she deserves it. Hera, the queen of heaven, reaches for the prize with all her regal authority. After all, she rules beside the king of the immortals, right? But Athena, the gray-eyed goddess of wisdom and war, born from Zeus's own head, challenges her. Surely she who guides heroes and grants victories is more than just a queen. Yet Aphrodite, the golden goddess of love and beauty, laughs at both of them. Beauty itself is standing right there. How can stone and cold wisdom compete with the power that makes the world bow down? The three goddesses turn to Zeus, expecting him to decide, but the Lord of Olympus knows better. Choosing between his wife, his daughter, and the goddess who holds his heart would spark a civil war among the gods. With clever diplomacy, he declares that only mortal eyes can judge such beauty, free from divine politics. On the slopes of Mount Ida, away from the grand halls of Troy, the shepherd prince Paris looks after his father's flocks, living a simple and innocent life. He has no idea of his royal heritage, raised in ignorance because of a prophecy that foretold he would bring ruin to his city. Unable to harm his own child, King Priam had ordered Paris to be left on the mountain, but kind-hearted shepherds found him and took him in. Now a young man, Paris is strikingly handsome, with eyes as deep as dark wine and a gentle touch that could calm even the wildest creature. When Hermes arrives with the three goddesses, the air around Paris sparkles with a magical glow. The goddesses, each radiating beauty that could blind a mortal, stand before him, carefully hiding their full splendor to avoid overwhelming the young shepherd. They demand his decision, each offering temptations that could sway even the wisest ruler. Hera, regal and commanding, promises Paris control over all the lands. "Pick me," she says confidently, "and you'll rule from dawn to dusk. Kings will bow to you, and your empire will stretch across the globe." Her words paint vivid images of golden cities and armies marching at his command. Athena, with her piercing gray eyes shining with wisdom, offers Paris unmatched intelligence and victory in every battle. "Choose me," she urges, "and you'll outshine all others in strategy and war. Your plans will always succeed, your spear will never miss, and bards will sing of your triumphs until the stars fade." Then Aphrodite steps forward, her smile making Paris's heart flutter. Her beauty stirs something deep within him, the yearning that drives all living beings, the sweet madness that makes life truly worthwhile. "Choose me," she whispers, "and I'll grant you the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Helen of Sparta is unmatched, and in her embrace you'll find joy beyond your wildest dreams." Paris, caught up in youthful desire, hands the golden apple to Aphrodite. In that instant, The fates of two great cities are sealed. Hera and Athena, furious and cold, turn away, their hatred for Troy now burning and unyielding. They won't forget this slight, and their revenge will be fierce. The journey to Sparta feels surreal. Paris, now known as a prince of Troy, travels with lavish gifts and diplomatic protection. Menelaus, the king of Sparta, welcomes him with all the honor a royal guest deserves, for hospitality is sacred among civilized folks. The red-haired king proudly showcases his palace, his treasures, and most importantly, his wife, Helen, whose beauty leaves even the toughest warriors at a loss for words. Helen, the daughter of Zeus, and famously hatched from a swan's egg, is truly the most beautiful woman ever born. Her beauty is almost divine. When she walks into a room, strong men forget their names, and women can only weep with envy and despair. Even after years of marriage to Menelaus, and having a daughter, her beauty remains untouched by time or motherhood. When Paris lays eyes on Helen, the promise of Aphrodite ignites a fire in his blood. The goddess whispers sweet nothings in his ear, clouding his judgment and stoking the flames of desire until concepts like honor and guest friendship fade into the background. Helen, too, feels an inexplicable pull towards the young prince. Aphrodite weaves her magic around them, making the sparks of love and longing grow stronger with every stolen glance. Menelaus, trusting his guest and secure in his wife's loyalty, heads off to Crete for his grandfather's funeral, leaving Paris to guard his household. But in the cover of night, with Aphrodite lighting their way, Paris and Helen escape Sparta together, taking a treasure trove of Menelaus's riches and trampling the sacred bonds of hospitality. When Menelaus returns to find his home ransacked and his wife gone, his fury shakes the very foundations of his palace. This violation cuts deeper than mere infidelity. It shatters the laws of guest friendship, the bedrock of civilized society. His brother, Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and the most powerful of Achaean rulers, rises to the call for vengeance. The great oath that once united Helen's suitors transforms into a war cry. Years earlier, when every king and prince in Achaea sought her hand, wise Odysseus had suggested they all swear to defend Helen's chosen husband. Now that oath summons the nobility to arms. Ajax the Great with his towering shield, Diomedes with his mighty war cry, Idomeneus of Crete, and countless others. Even the reluctant heroes, like Odysseus himself, find themselves swept into the brewing storm. 9 long years have passed since 1,000 black ships carried the Achaean host across the wine-dark sea to lay siege to Troy's walls. What began as a furious assault, with heroes dreaming of swift victories and easy glory, has turned into a drawn-out war of attrition. The mighty walls of Troy, built by gods in ancient times, have proven impossible to breach. Instead, the conflict has devolved into a series of raids and skirmishes, with the Achaeans controlling the surrounding lands, while the Trojans remain safely behind their fortifications. Heroes who once sailed from Achaea as young men now wear the gray of age from the fighting. Many who boasted of their strength now lie beneath Trojan soil, their bones picked clean by vultures. The war has devoured a generation, creating widows in both Achaea and Troy, leaving children without fathers and parents without their young. Yet neither side is willing to back down. Achaean honor demands Helen's return, while Trojan pride refuses to accept defeat. Into this weary stalemate comes a new horror that makes mortal warfare seem gentle by comparison: plague. The pestilence strikes the Achaean camp like divine arrows, cutting down soldiers who have survived countless battles. It shows no respect for rank or courage. Princes fall just as easily as common soldiers, their bodies burning with a fever that no medicine can touch. The air grows thick with the smoke of funeral pyres as the once invincible army cowers before this invisible enemy. For 9 long days, the plague rages through the camp, each dawn bringing fresh corpses and new terror. Warriors who would face Trojan spears without flinching now flinch at shadows, wondering if they'll see another sunset. The careful order of military life breaks down as discipline crumbles under divine wrath. Supply lines fail, councils of war dissolve into blame, and the great expedition threatens to die ignominiously from disease. On the 10th day, the son of Peleus, the greatest warrior of them all, can take no more. His myrmidons, the elite fighters who follow him from Phthia, have suffered terribly from the plague, and his heart burns with helpless rage. He calls an assembly of the army, his voice cutting through the camp's despair like a bronze blade through silk. If some immortal has sent this pestilence, he declares, then we need to find out what offense has brought this celestial anger upon us. Calchas, the prophet, steps forward, his face pale with fear and heavy knowledge. Son of Thestor, gifted with the far shooter's own sight, he knows the past, present, and future as clearly as most know their own names. He has seen this moment coming, dreaded it, tried to avoid it, but fate won't be cheated. He knows the truth that will ignite the wrath of kings, but he can't speak it alone. The old seer's voice trembles as he addresses the son of Peleus. Greatest of warriors, you ask me to reveal the cause of the silver-bowed one's anger, but I fear to speak. Promise me your protection. Swear by all the heavenly powers that you will defend me, for my words will bring the fury of one who rules many Achaeans. His eyes dart toward the king's pavilion, and his meaning is clear to all who watch. The hero, his young face fierce with purpose, swears the oath without hesitation. Speak without fear, old man. While I live and see the light upon this earth, no one shall lay heavy hands upon you beside the hollow ships, not even if you name the king himself, who claims to be the greatest among us. His words ring with conviction, and Calchas finds courage in the young champion's promise. When the truth comes, it falls upon the assembly like a thunderbolt. The far shooter, lord of the silver bow, has unleashed these arrows of plague because King Atreus' son has dishonored Chryses, priest of the archer deity. The old priest had come to the Achaean camp with rich ransom for his daughter, Chryses, the prize of the king's spear. With tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, Chryses begged for his child's return, calling upon his patron's name and offering gold enough to buy a city. But the king, secure in his power and drunk on the wine of victory, had spurned the old man with words as sharp as bronze. Don't let me catch you, old fool, hanging around the ships or coming back here later, or you won't have your master's staff or protection anymore. I won't free the girl. She'll grow old in Argos, in my own house, far from her homeland, working my loom and sharing my bed. Now get out of here, and don't make me angry if you want to leave alive." The priest left, but not quietly. As he walked along the noisy shore, he prayed to his God with words that burned like fire. "Hear me, silver-bowed one who watches over Chryse and holy Scylla, who rules Tenedos with strength. If I've ever decorated your temple with garlands, if I've ever burned rich thigh bones of bulls and goats on your altar, grant me this prayer. Let the Achaeans pay for my tears with your arrows." And the archer god heard his plea. Down from Olympus he came, like the night itself, with his silver bow on his shoulder and a quiver full of groaning arrows. First he struck the mules and swift dogs, then turned his deadly arrows on the men. The funeral fires burned non-stop, and the Achaean army began to dwindle under the relentless wrath of the immortal. Now Calchas's revelation hung in the air like smoke from the funeral pyres. The answer was clear but bitter. Chryses had to be returned to her father without ransom, and sacred hecatombs needed to be offered to appease the angry god. All eyes turned to the son of Atreus, waiting for the king's reaction, knowing that royal pride would clash with military need. The king's face darkened like a storm cloud as rage filled his heart. The public humiliation cut deeper than any Trojan spear, because a ruler's honor is his life, and giving up his prize in front of the assembled army would mean admitting weakness. Yet he couldn't deny the truth of Calchas's words. The plague was louder than any argument. Through gritted teeth, he agreed to let Chryses go, but his next words sparked a fire greater than the far shooter's arrows ever could. "I'll give up the girl," the king declares, his voice as hard as iron, "but I won't be the only one among the Danaans left without a prize. That just wouldn't be right. You all see that my prize is going elsewhere, so come on, give me a prize right now, or I'll be the only Argive without one, and that's just not proper." His eyes, shining with malice and wounded pride, land on the son of Peleus. The greatest warrior sits quietly among his captains, but the king sees both a threat and an opportunity in him. Here's a man whose glory outshines even royal radiance, whose skill makes other heroes look like kids playing at war. "Maybe I'll take your prize, son of Peleus," the king continues, his words dropping like stones into still water. "The lovely Briseis. I'll take her and leave, and whoever loses their prize will definitely be angry. What happens next will echo through the ages, sung by poets yet to be born, and whispered around campfires when the world grows old." The hero stands up, his young face fierce with fury, his voice slicing through the assembly like a sword through silk. The insult burns in his heart like molten bronze. Losing Briseis, his prize of honor and comfort in this bitter war, feels like a public humiliation. "You shameless one, wrapped in impudence." The hero's voice rings out across the silent crowd. "How can any of the Achaeans follow you willingly, whether on a journey or in battle? I didn't come here to fight because of the Trojan spearmen. They've done nothing to me. They've never driven away my cattle or horses, nor destroyed my harvest in fertile Phthia, for between us lie many shadowy mountains and the vast sea. But you, shameless one, we followed you to please you, to win honor for Menelaus and yourself from the enemy. You don't care about this, do you?" The young hero's voice rises as his anger builds, each word a javelin aimed at the king's authority. "I never get a prize equal to yours when the Achaeans sack some well-populated city. I do most of the fighting, yet when the spoils are divided, your prize is always greater, while I'm left with something small, dear to me when I'm worn out from battle. Now I'll head back to Phthia, because it's better to return home with my beaked ships than stay here dishonored, piling up wealth for you." The king responds as swiftly as an arrow, his own royal fury matching the young warrior's rage. "Then flee if that's what your heart tells you. I won't beg you to stay for my sake. Others will stick with me who will honor me, especially the counselor. You're the most hateful of the kings raised by Zeus, for strife is always dear to you, along with wars and battles. If you're strong, remember, an immortal gave you that strength. Go home with your ships and your companions, and lord it over your Myrmidons." I don't care about you, and I won't pay any attention to your anger. But mark my words, just as the far shooter took Chris's from me, I will take lovely-cheeked Briseis, going straight to your hut, so you'll see just how much greater I am than you." The king's words hit the hero like a punch, and for a heartbeat, it looks like he might just kill him. His hand flies to the sword at his side, the bronze blade humming as it barely clears the sheath. The crowd holds its breath, knowing that if the son of Peleus draws that sword, the king will drop dead right there, and the Achaean cause will crumble along with him. But just when things are about to explode, Athena appears, and only the hero can see her. The gray-eyed goddess sent by Hera, who cares for both heroes, despite their feud, grabs the young warrior by his golden hair. Her touch is a mix of ice and fire, a divine command he can't ignore, and her voice echoes in his mind. "I came from heaven to cool your anger if you'll listen. Hold back your hand. Don't draw the sword. Instead, hit him with your words. Trust me on this. You'll get 3 times as many glorious gifts because of this insult." The sword slides back into its sheath with a sigh, but the damage is done. When the hero finally speaks, his words carry the weight of prophecy, thanks to the visions granted by his divine mother. "You wine-soaked coward with a dog's face and a deer's heart. You've never dared to fight alongside your people, or sneak up on the best of the Achaeans. That kind of action seems like death to you. But listen, I swear a great oath on this scepter, which will never bear leaves or branches again, since it was cut from the mountains. Here's my promise. One day, the Achaeans will long for the son of Peleus. And on that day, you won't be able to help them, no matter how much you grieve, when many fall before man-slaying Hector. You'll be left torn apart inside, regretting that you didn't honor the best warrior." With that, he throws the golden scepter to the ground and storms out of the assembly, his closest friends trailing behind him. The prophecy hangs in the air like the scent of blood, and even the king feels a chill creep into his heart despite his anger. The taking of Briseis unfolds like a painful ritual. The girl, daughter of a priest of Artemis, says nothing as she's led from the hero's hut to the king's tent. Her eyes lock with her captor-turned-protector one last time, and in that glance lies all the sorrow of women in wartime passed around like a prize, their own wishes meaningless against the pride of men. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the wine-dark sea, the son of Peleus strolls along the shore, lost in thought. His anger has transformed into something deeper and more dangerous a resolve that could change the course of the war. He reaches out to his divine mother, and silver-footed Thetis emerges from the depths, her beauty tinged with sorrow, for she knows what her son is about to ask. "My child," she gently inquires, her voice soft like the waves lapping at the shore, "why are you in tears? What pain weighs on your heart? Don't hold back. Share it with me so we can face it together." And he spills out his grief and fury, recounting the bitter tale of lost honor and wounded pride, ending with a plea that burns fiercely within him. "Mother, since you brought me into this world knowing my life would be short, Zeus should have given me the honor I deserve. But instead, I find myself dishonored. The son of Atreus has taken my prize by force." Tears like silver rain fall from Thetis as she listens, understanding her son's fate better than he does. 2 paths lie ahead: a long life without glory, or a brief existence filled with immortal fame. She sees the choice he has made, and though it breaks her heart, she won't abandon him. "Oh, my dear child," she whispers, why did I raise you, knowing your fate? I wish you could sit by your ships free from tears and sorrow, but your life is both swift and wretched. Yet a mother's love is more powerful than divine wisdom. Thetis vows to take her son's request to Zeus himself, to plead for the hero's honor by granting victory to the Trojans until the Achaeans recognize the worth of the warrior they've disrespected. The cost will be high. Achaean blood will spill, and lives of heroes who might have thrived will be lost because of pride. But the son of Peleus will have his revenge. On Olympus, Thetis finds Zeus alone on the highest peak, deep in thought about the fates of mortals. She reminds him of past debts, how she once saved him from the other gods who conspired against him. Now she asks for her payment. Honor my son, the swiftest of men. King Atreus' son has disrespected him, taking his prize by force. But you, wise Zeus, must honor him. Give victory to the enemy until the Achaeans recognize my son's true worth and increase his glory. Zeus nods slowly, aware of the consequences. His promise will spark conflict among the gods, igniting civil war on Olympus itself. For Hera supports the Achaean cause and won't forgive this betrayal. This is troublesome, he rumbles, his voice echoing like distant thunder. You're putting me at odds with Hera, and she'll unleash her wrath upon me. But I'll consider this and see it through. I will nod my head to you, so you can trust my word. It cannot be taken back, nor is it false or unfulfilled, whatever I nod my head to. The great nod that follows shakes Olympus to its core, sending the stars into a dance and sealing the fate of heroes yet to come. That night, as Thetis returns to her ocean depths and Zeus contemplates the cost of his promises, he sends a false dream to the king, taking the form of aged Nestor. The dream whispers of certain victory if the king attacks at dawn, claiming that the gods are united in their desire to destroy Troy. The king awakens, fire in his heart, convinced that the lie is the truth. Yet, driven by some celestial mix-up that echoes the false dream's trickery, he decides to speak to the assembled troops, not with promises of victory, but with words of defeat, suggesting they abandon the siege and sail home empty-handed. The war-weary soldiers don't need a second invitation. After 9 long years of siege, their spirits are worn thin, and the king's words touch on longings they've tried hard to bury. Like a tide rushing to the shore, the entire army surges toward their ships, leaving their leaders stunned and powerless. Only Odysseus, armed with a royal scepter and speaking with Zeus's authority, manages to turn this retreat back into an army. Now the great catalogue of ships unfolds, as the poet's voice rises in ancient song, naming each contingent that sailed from Achaea 9 years ago. From the king's 100 ships carrying the men of Mycene and Argos, to Menelaus's 60 bearing the warriors of Lacedaemon, to the 50 black ships of the Myrmidons, loyal to absent Peleus' son. The full might of Achaea lines up on the plain. Each name carries the weight of history. Each ship represents families torn apart by war. Across the field, Hector gathers Troy's defenders and her distant allies, proving this is truly a clash between worlds. The Lycians follow the godlike Sarpedon, son of Zeus himself, while the Dardanians march under Aeneas, born of Aphrodite's love for mortal Anchises. Thracians and Phrygians, Paeonians and Paphlagonians warriors from the edges of the known world have traveled far to honor their oaths to Priam. As the armies move toward each other across the plain of Troy, their bronze armor glints in the morning sun like scales on a massive serpent, and the very earth trembles beneath their march. Dust rises like smoke from a great fire, and the air fills with war cries in a dozen tongues. The clash of bronze on bronze, the thunder of horses' hooves. Overhead, the immortals take their places to watch the mortals play out their eternal drama of love and hate, honor and revenge, glory and death. Zeus holds his golden scales ready to weigh the fates of heroes, while Athena and Aphrodite glare at each other across the divine divide, their ancient grudge about to spill mortal blood across the wine-dark plain. The far shooter tunes his silver bow, Ares sharpens his spear, and Poseidon readies the earth to drink deep of heroes' blood. The stage is set for a tragedy on an epic scale. The son of Peleus broods by his ships like a storm held back by the thinnest dam, his anger smoldering, but not yet a full blaze. Troy's walls stand proud but doomed, their strength soon to be tested by forces greater than bronze and stone. Helen watches from her tower, beautiful yet cursed, the cause of a war she never wanted to start. Her very presence is a reminder that the greatest conflicts often spring from the simplest human desires twisted by divine will. On the plain between the armies, dust rises like a golden cloud, marking the spot where heroes will fall and legends will be born. The war that started with a golden apple and a judgment clouded by desire will now be settled by bronze and blood, by the clash of spear on shield and the relentless will of the deathless ones. 9 years of siege and sorrow have led to this moment, and now the true test begins, not just of Achaean against Trojan, but of mortal pride against divine purpose, of individual will against the turning of fate's great wheel. Broken truces, burning rage. The armies stand ready like waves waiting for a storm, bronze glinting in the morning sun as dust clouds mark their advance across the plain. But just before the clash, fate steps in through the voice of Alexandros himself. The prince who sparked this war steps forward from the allied ranks, his leopard skin cloak flowing behind him, twin spears gleaming in his hands. He still looks stunning after 9 years of siege, but something shifted in those dark eyes. Maybe the weight of countless deaths rests on his shoulders. With the bold arrogance that first won him the heart of Zeus's daughter, the shepherd prince calls out the bravest of the Danaans to a duel. His voice echoes across the no-man's land between the armies, bouncing off Troy's ancient walls. Come on, you best of the Argives. Fight me man to man for the daughter of Zeus and all her treasures. Let the gods decide our fate, and the winner takes all while our people swear binding oaths of peace. The challenge hits the front lines like a thunderbolt. Finally, there's a chance to end 9 years of bloodshed with a single duel, to restore honor without slaughtering thousands. But when red-haired Menelaus steps forward, his bronze armor shining with righteous fury, the shepherd prince feels his courage melt away like wax before a flame. The cuckolded king's very presence seems to burn. Here stands the wronged husband, a man whose hospitality was betrayed, whose treasure was stolen, whose honor demands satisfaction in blood. The beautiful prince stumbles back into the safety of his ranks, like a man who's just stepped on a snake. His face turns pale as marble, and the spears slip from his nerveless fingers. The sight of his cowardice sends waves of shame through the allied lines, while the Argives roar with mocking laughter. Even the daughter of Zeus, watching from high in Troy's towers, must feel her heart sink at her lover's failure. But Hector, the noblest of Priam's sons, can't stand to see his brother's disgrace poison the army's courage. His rebuke cuts deeper than any enemy's spear. Alexandros, you shameful coward, beautiful to look at, but rotten at heart. Would you had never been born, or had died unwed before you brought this shame upon us all? Better that than to be a coward before the enemy, a thing for men to point at and despise. Do you think the flowing-haired Danaans will call our champion mighty just because you have a pretty face, while your heart is weak? When you sailed in your fine ships and gathered companions from foreign lands, bringing back a beautiful woman to be the wife of warriors, you became a curse to your father, your city, and your people, a joy to our enemies, and a shame to yourself. The words hit the prince like physical blows, yet they ignite something that beauty and love couldn't. The desperate courage of a man who has nothing left to lose but his last shred of honor. Hector, he replies, his voice steadying as resolve builds within him. Your rebuke is fair, and I accept it. Your heart is like an axe that cuts through wood, never dulled by use. But don't throw the lovely gifts of golden Aphrodite in my face. The glorious gifts the deathless ones give aren't to be rejected, though mortals can't choose them for themselves. Now, if you want me to step into the arena for trial by combat, make the other defenders and all the Argives sit down, and let me and war-loving Sparta's king face each other between the armies for the daughter of Zeus and all her possessions. Whichever of us wins and proves superior, let him take all the wealth and the woman and lead her home. And let the rest of you swear faithful oaths of friendship. His words hang in the air, full of tension and promise, as both armies feel the weight of what's to come. This is more than just a fight. It's a chance to end the cycle of bloodshed that has haunted them for years. And as the sun rises higher, casting a golden glow over the field, the fate of many hangs in the balance, waiting for the champions to take their stand. The proposal spreads through both armies like wildfire. It's the answer that wise folks have dreamed of. Let the guilty parties settle their scores while sparing the innocent thousands who've bled for their quarrel. Hector strides boldly into the space between the armies, his spear held crosswise to keep the eager ranks in check, while heralds rush to bring the kings together. In the highest tower of Troy, the daughter of Leda sits with her women, weaving a great purple tapestry that tells the story of the struggles fought for her sake. The sound of footsteps draws her attention, and she looks up to see aged Iris, disguised as her sister-in-law Laodice, bringing news that her husband and lover will finally face each other. Come, dear sister, whispers the disguised goddess, and witness the incredible scene. Those defenders and bronze-armored Danaans, who just moments ago were locked in sorrowful strife, now sit in silence, leaning on their shields, their long spears planted in the ground. But Alexandros and the red-haired king, beloved of Ares, will duel with long spears for you, and you'll be called the cherished wife of whoever conquers. Her heart stirs with a longing sharp as pain, not for the prince or the Spartan king, but for her former home, her parents, and her daughter Hermione, left behind in Sparta. The celestial messenger has sparked a sweet homesickness in her heart, and she wraps herself in silver-white linen, letting tears fall like rain. With 2 handmaidens by her side, she hurries to the Scaean gates, where Troy's elders sit like cicadas in a tree, their voices soft with age. When the old men see the world's most beautiful woman climbing the tower steps, they can't help but murmur among themselves. It's no wonder the defenders and the sorrowful Danaans have endured long hardships for such a woman. She looks just like the deathless ones. Even so beautiful as she is, let her go in the ships and not remain here as a curse to us and our children. But Priam, king of Troy, gently calls her to his side. Come here, dear daughter. and sit beside me so you can see your former husband and your kinsmen and friends. I don't blame you. I blame the celestial powers who brought this tearful strife upon us. Tell me, who is that huge man among the Danaans, so goodly and great? Others are taller, but I've never seen one so beautiful or royal. Surely he looks like a king. Thus begins the Tychoscopia, a viewing from the walls, as the daughter of Zeus identifies the heroes for the king. That is the son of Atreus, wide-ruling Agamemnon, she says, her voice heavy with memory. He's both a good king and a strong spearman. He was my husband's brother, shameless as I am, if that was ever true. The old king marvels at the sight of so many ships and men gathered for one woman's sake. And who is that other one? Priam asks. Shorter than the king by a head, but broader in the shoulders and chest. His armor lies on the bountiful earth, but he moves through the ranks of men like a ram among sheep. The beauty's eyes soften with something like affection. That is Odysseus, son of Laertes, raised in the land of Ithaca. He knows all sorts of tricks and cunning plans. Wise Antenor, who sits beside the king, recalls when Odysseus came to Troy as an envoy before the conflict. When he rose to speak, he seemed like a man with no skill in words, but when his great voice rang out and his words flowed like snowflakes in winter, no mortal could compete with the son of Laertes. Point by point, the daughter of Leda names the heroes. Ajax the Great, towering like a god among the Argives. Idomeneus of Crete, standing proud among his captains like an Olympian. But when Priam asks about her own brothers, Castor the horse-tamer and Polydeuces the boxer, she can only shake her head. They're already gone, buried deep in Lacedaemon, held fast by the earth that gives life. It's a cruel twist of fate that hangs heavy in the air. She searches for familiar faces that will never again greet the sun. Meanwhile, the sacred oaths are being prepared with all the seriousness they deserve. The son of Atreus and Priam meet in the open space between the armies, while priests bring in the sacrificial lambs and wine for the ritual. The king of Troy's hands tremble, not from fear, but from the heavy weight of what's at stake. His city's fate, his son's life, and whether this conflict will finally come to an end or drag on. All of it rests on the strength of two men and the favor of the gods. The high king raises the great bronze knife and cuts wool from the lambs' heads, handing it out to the greatest warriors from both sides. With hands lifted to the heavens, he calls out the binding words. Father Zeus, who rules from Ida, most glorious and greatest, and you, son, who sees and hears all things, and you rivers and earth, and you who punish those who break oaths, be witnesses to these vows. If Alexandros kills Menelaus, let him keep the daughter of Zeus and all her treasures, and we will sail away in our ships. But if fair-haired Menelaus kills the prince, then let the defenders return the beauty and all her wealth, and pay fitting compensation to the Argives, so it's remembered even by those yet to be born. The lambs' throats are cut, and their blood seeps into the earth, as both armies pray for the same outcome. That today might be the day the fighting ends, that no more young men have to die for a feud between princes. But even as the sacred words are spoken, the gods on Olympus are plotting something different. The encounter kicks off with ancient rituals. Hector and Odysseus mark out the ground and draw lots from a bronze helmet to see who will throw the first spear. The shepherd prince wins the draw, a fitting twist for someone whose luck has often outshone his courage. The armies sit in careful ranks, their shields and long spears planted beside them, while the two champions prepare for battle. Alexandros binds his legs with greaves, fitted with silver clasps, and puts on the corselet of his brother Lycaon, tailored to fit him perfectly. He slings his silver-studded sword around his shoulders, picks up his massive shield, and places a well-made helmet with a horsehair crest on his head, which nods ominously. Finally, he grabs his strong spear, ready for action. The red-haired king arms himself with equal care, his bronze armor gleaming like fire in the morning sun. His rage has been simmering for 9 long years, turning into something cold and unyielding. This isn't just the hot anger of a wronged husband, but the determined resolve of a king who has watched countless men die for his honor. As both champions stand ready, they stride into the space between the armies, their eyes fierce and unyielding, while all the seated warriors watch in awe. The stage is set for a battle that could change everything. When both champions are ready, they stride into the space between the armies, their fierce gazes captivating all the seated warriors who marvel at the sight. The prince, having won the draw, throws his long-shadowed spear first. The bronze tip strikes the Spartan's shield with a solid thud, but it doesn't pierce through. Instead, the spear bends back like lead, thanks to the shield's divine craftsmanship. Now the red-haired king lifts his weapon, calling on Father Zeus. Lord Zeus, grant me revenge on the one who wronged me first, divine Alexandros. Subdue him under my hands, so that others may think twice before wronging a host who shows them kindness. His spear flies straight and true, piercing through the prince's shining shield and slicing into his intricate corselet. By the narrowest margin, it misses his side as he twists away, but the bronze tears through his tunic, drawing blood. The Spartan king then draws his silver-studded sword and charges forward with a fierce war cry, but his blade shatters against the Trojan's helmet crest, falling into pieces. In a desperate move, the red-haired warrior grabs Alexandros by his horsehair crest and starts dragging him toward the Argive lines. The richly embroidered chin strap digs into the prince's tender throat, choking off his breath, and victory seems within reach. The sight sends wild cheers through the Argive ranks. Finally, justice will be served, the war will end, and the daughter of Zeus will be returned. But Aphrodite, who has been watching her favorite's defeat with growing alarm, won't let her champion fall so disgracefully. Invisible to mortal eyes, she snaps the chin strap and whisks the shepherd prince away in a cloud of mist, safely carrying him to his perfume chamber in Troy's palace. The golden goddess, breathtaking in her beauty and ruthless in her love, then goes to fetch the world's most beautiful woman from the tower. Disguised as an old wool woman who had once served the beauty in Sparta, Aphrodite appears beside the watching queen. "Come," she says, her voice sweet yet commanding. "Alexandros calls for you. He waits in his chamber, radiant in beauty and dress. You'd think he was going to a dance, not just coming from a fight." The daughter of Zeus recognizes the goddess despite her disguise. The graceful neck, the lovely breasts, and the sparkling eyes give her away. Terror and anger clash in the queen's heart as she responds, "Strange divinity, why do you want to beguile me? Are you going to carry me away to some well-populated city of Phrygia or lovely Meonia, if you have some mortal man dear to you there? Is it because the red-haired king has now defeated godlike Alexandros and wishes to take me back home, hateful as I am, that you stand here with such treachery? Go, sit beside the prince yourself. Forget the ways of the immortals. Don't ever let your feet carry you back to Olympus. Just focus on him and guard him until he makes you his wife, or perhaps his slave. I will not go there. It would be shameful to share his bed. But wow, the goddess's anger is something else. Her stunning eyes blaze with divine fire as she warns, "Don't push me, reckless woman. If I lose my temper, I might abandon you and turn my love into hatred, and then I'll create all sorts of trouble between the defenders and the Danaans. You could end up in a really bad spot." The world's most beautiful woman, trembling in fear at the goddess's fury, quietly heads to her lover's chamber, her serving women trailing behind. There she finds the prince, looking more beautiful than ever despite his defeat, lounging on his intricately carved bed as if nothing had happened. Her words to him drip with contempt and shame. "You're back from the fight. I wish you had been defeated there, brought low by that strong man who was my former husband. You used to brag about being better than war-loving Sparta's king, with a spear and in strength. Go on, challenge him again. But seriously, think twice before facing fair-haired Menelaus in single combat, or you might just end up under his spear." The shepherd prince, unashamed of his cowardice, reaches for her with words as smooth as honey. "My love, please don't scold my heart with harsh words." This time, the red-haired warrior had Athena's help, but next time I will conquer him. We have gods on our side too. Come now, let's enjoy our love, for never before has desire wrapped around my heart like it does now. Not even when I first carried you away from beautiful Lacedaemon, and we lay together on the island of Crani. I love you even more now, and sweet desire has taken hold of me. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the Spartan king prowls like a wild beast through both armies, searching for the man who has vanished like morning mist. The Argives look high and low, but the prince seems to have disappeared as if he never existed. Even the defenders, who don't love him for his courage, but for Priam's sake, would happily hand him over if they could find him. He is hated by them all like Black Death. Agamemnon, realizing that the duel's outcome is clear despite the divine intervention, speaks to both armies with authority. "Listen up, you Trojans, Dardanians, and allies. Victory clearly belongs to war-loving Menelaus. So return Argive Helen and her possessions, and pay the compensation that's fitting, so it may be remembered even by those yet to be born." His words hang in the air like smoke from a sacrifice, and for a moment it seems the war might truly end. Both armies wait in tense silence, watching their leaders, hoping against hope that 9 years of bloodshed might conclude with honor satisfied and oaths fulfilled. But the gods have other plans. On Olympus, Zeus speaks words that will shatter the fragile peace like bronze striking stone. Hera and Athena are Menelaus's helpers. The cloud gatherer observes to the gathered deities, yet they sit apart, enjoying the show, while laughter-loving Aphrodite always stands by Paris, warding off his doom and saving him when he thought he was done for. But since victory belongs to war-loving Menelaus, let's think about how this should play out. Should we stir up another war in the dreadful din of battle? Or can we put friendship between both sides? If that would be welcome, then King Priam's city might stay inhabited, and Menelaus could take Argive Helen back home. This suggestion sends Athena and Hera into a cold fury. They, who have hated Troy since Paris's judgment, now see their revenge slipping away. Athena, her gray eyes flashing with divine wrath, steps forward for a mission that will doom thousands. "Father, don't make my hard work pointless. The sweat I poured when my horses grew weary, gathering the host against Priam and his sons. Do as you will, but not all of us immortals approve. Zeus, bound by his promise to Thetis, but wanting to appease his wife and daughter, gives Athena the go-ahead to break the truce. Quickly, go to the army of Trojans and Achaeans, and try to make the Trojans break their oaths first, and harm the glorious Achaeans. The command is all the war goddess needs. Like a star hurled from heaven as a warning to sailors or a vast army of men, bright and showering sparks around it, Athena speeds down and plunges into the midst of the troops. Wonder grips both armies as they watch the divine fire streak across the sky, and men murmur among themselves. Either there will be another evil war and the dreadful din of battle, or Zeus is putting friendship between both sides, he who is the dispenser of war among mortals. Athena, disguised as Laodocus, son of Antenor, weaves her way through the Trojan ranks until she spots Pandarus, the son of Lycaon. This guy's a skilled archer, and his bow, crafted from the horns of a wild ibex he took down himself. The goddess sidles up to him, her words dripping with sweet temptation. "Hey there, wise son of Lycaon. How about this? Why not shoot a swift arrow at Menelaus? Think about it. You'd win all the glory from the Trojans, especially from Prince Paris. Imagine the awesome gifts you'd get if he sees war-loving Menelaus fall to your arrow and end up on the sad funeral pyre. So, what do you say? Shoot that arrow at glorious Menelaus, but make sure to promise Apollo, the wolf-born lord of archery, that you'll sacrifice a glorious hecatomb of firstborn lambs when you get back to the sacred city of Zelea." Poor Pandarus. He's totally buying into Athena's scheme, sealing his own fate and that of his people. He pulls out his shiny bow, strings it up, and picks out his best arrow one that's blackened with the pain and suffering that's about to unfold. Hidden behind his buddies' shields, he draws the string to his chest and lines up the iron arrowhead. As he pulls back the bow, it sings, and the arrow flies fast, aiming straight for its target. But wait, Menelaus, the blessed immortals haven't forgotten you. Athena, the one who set this whole treachery in motion, is now right there to protect you from that nasty arrow. Like a mother swatting away a fly from her sleeping child, she diverts the shaft. She guides it to where the golden buckles of your belt meet, where your corselet offers some defense. The arrow strikes the fitted belt, slicing through the intricate corselet and the guard beneath that shields your flesh. This was meant to be your best protection against the bronze. Even so, it grazes your skin and dark blood starts to flow from the wound. It's like when a woman stains ivory with purple dye, some Maeonian or Carian woman, making a cheek piece for horses, left in a chamber while many horsemen wish to take it. But it's saved as a prize for a king, both a decoration for his horse and a glory for the charioteer. Just like that, Menelaus, your shapely thighs are stained with blood, and your legs beneath, and your beautiful ankles. The sight of blood trickling from their king sends a wave of terror through the Achaean ranks, while wild joy bubbles up among the Trojans. But when Menelaus sees that the wound is shallow, barely breaking the skin, his courage comes rushing back like wind filling a sail. Still, Agamemnon groans at the sight of the dark blood, and even war-loving Menelaus lets out a groan. The king's lament echoes across the battlefield as he grips his brother's hand tightly. "Dear brother, it was your death I swore to bring about when I made this pact, putting you out there alone before the Achaeans to take on the Trojans. And look at this, the Trojans have struck you down and trampled on the oaths we held dear. But let me tell you, the oath, the blood of lambs, The pure wine and the right hands we trusted won't go to waste. If the Olympian doesn't fulfill them now, he will later, and they will pay a hefty price with their heads, their wives, and their children. I know this deep in my heart and soul. The day will come when sacred Troy will fall, and Priam and his people, armed with the good ashen spear, will face their doom. His words resonate with a prophetic weight, sending chills down the spines of Trojans and allies alike, even in their moment of triumph. The oaths have been shattered, the blood has been spilled, and now the war that might have found its end must rage on, leaving one side or the other to crumble beneath the unyielding sky. Duels and diplomacy. The archer's betrayal shatters the morning calm like bronze striking stone. Just moments ago, sacred oaths filled the air, and there was a flicker of hope that 9 years of bloodshed might finally come to an end. But now, a wine-dark stain spreads across the red-haired king's thigh, bringing with it the harsh reality that this conflict won't be settled with handshakes or honored treaties. The sight of royal blood flowing onto the ground sends a roar of fury through the Argive ranks, while across the field, the defenders realize with growing dread that their archer's shot has sealed their doom. The High King's voice rises above the chaos, like thunder rolling over the plain, his words heavy with prophecy and the promise of revenge. The oaths are broken. The blood of the innocent cries out for justice. Zeus, the oath-keeper, will not let this treachery go unpunished. Sure, Troy's walls might delay our victory, but they can't stop it. The day will come when sacred Iliad will fall, and Priam and his people will pay the price for this betrayal. As hostilities resume, it unfolds with the terrible inevitability of a landslide. Warriors who just moments ago were sitting peacefully on the ground now leap to their feet, bronze singing as spears are raised and shields are hefted. The careful formations dissolve and then reform as captains shout orders, and the great war machine lurches back into motion. Yet among all the heroes gearing up for slaughter, one figure stands out, the son of Tydeus, his eyes blazing with a fury that seems almost superhuman. The young lord of Argos has been chosen by fate and the gray-eyed goddess to be this day's instrument of divine wrath. As the armies clash between Troy's walls and the Argive ships, the Argive champion cuts through the enemy ranks like a wildfire through dry timber. His spear finds its mark with every thrust. His sword sings its bronze song of death, and the defenders fall back in terror and awe. The first to fall beneath his onslaught is Phegeus, son of Dares, a priest of Hephaestus. The young warrior drives his chariot straight at Tydeus' son, confident in his divine protection, but the Argive spear pierces his chest as if bronze were mere cloth. The horses rear and bolt, dragging away the corpse, while Phegeus' brother Odys leaps to safety, abandoning his chariot and armor to save his own life. The slaughter continues as a divine fire burns in the hero's veins. Astylus falls to his spear, followed by Hyperion, Abas, and Polyidus, names that will be remembered only for how they died. The young champion's Aristea, his moment of supreme glory, transforms him into something more than human, less than divine, a figure of terror that sends panic through the enemy ranks like wind through wheat. But the defenders have their champions too. Aeneas, son of Aphrodite and noble Anchises, sees the carnage spreading and realizes that only divine blood can stand against this rampage. Born from the union of goddess and mortal prince, heir to the ancient bloodline of Dardanus, Aeneas embodies Troy's last hope for survival. He seeks out Pandarus, the fool whose arrow shattered the peace, and together they drive their chariot toward the furious lord of Argos. The clash erupts with a thunderous crash of bronze against bronze. Pandarus throws his spear first, the tip striking the Argive's shield and piercing through to wound his shoulder. The archer can't help but gloat. Keep pushing, you brave defenders. The best of the enemy is hurt, and I doubt he'll last long against my bitter arrow, especially if it's truly the Lord Apollo who sent me from Lycia. But instead of weakening, the son of Tydeus' fury ignites even more. He prays to his divine patron, and she responds by flooding his limbs with strength and clearing the fog from his eyes, allowing him to see the difference between mortals and immortals on the battlefield. The goddess whispers in his ear, "Fight fearlessly against the deathless ones, except for Zeus the Thunderer. Take down anyone who stands in your way, even if they claim Olympus as their home." And just like that, we dive into one of the boldest moments in all the stories of this conflict. A mortal warrior charging at the very powers of heaven. When Aeneas charges forward, trusting in his divine lineage to shield him, the Argive champion meets him with a boulder so heavy it would take 2 men from later generations to lift. The stone crashes into the hero's hip, sending him sprawling to the ground, and only Aphrodite's quick intervention saves her son from death. The goddess of love, her delicate hands shaking with fear, scoops up her wounded child and starts to carry him away from the chaos. But the son of Tydeus, fueled by battle rage and his patron's promise, chases after even the immortal daughter of Zeus. His spear pierces her divine wrist, and golden ichor spills forth, the blood of the celestial beings who've never known mortality or pain. Aphrodite's cry of agony echoes across both earth and heaven. She drops Aeneas and flees toward Olympus, clutching her wounded hand to her chest, while her son lies helpless on the bloody ground. But Apollo, the lord of the silver bow, won't let his fellow deity's child perish. He wraps Aeneas in a dark cloud and whisks him away to his sacred temple on Troy's citadel, where his mother Leto and sister Artemis tend to the hero's wounds. Meanwhile, the wounded goddess seeks solace from her parents up on high Olympus. She flies to Zeus, tears streaming down her face as she shows him her injured hand and pours out her grievances. "Father, Diomedes in his fury has wounded me. He would dare to fight with Zeus himself if someone egged him on. First, he struck godlike Aeneas, my dear son, and when I tried to save him from death, he turned his ruthless bronze against me. If I weren't immortal, I'd be lying among the heaps of corpses like any mortal who fell in their pride. But Zeus, the cloud gatherer, shows little sympathy for his daughter's plight. His words carry the weight of cosmic law and the stern wisdom of ages. Don't come crying to me, my child, about your troubles in battle. These matters of violence and warfare aren't for you. Yours are the lovely works of marriage and desire. Leave the fighting to swift Ares and Athena, who know its bitter ways." Back on the battlefield, the Argive continues his rampage, even though Apollo now stands guard over where Aeneas fell. 3 times Tydeus' son charges forward to claim the wounded hero's armor. 3 times the far shooter pushes him back with his silver shield. But when the mortal warrior makes a 4th attempt, the immortal's voice booms across the plain. "Think, son of Tydeus, and back off. Don't try to match your will against the deathless ones, for the race of celestial beings and earth-walking mortals is not the same." Even the champion, despite all his divine backing, sees the sense in those words. He pulls back a spear's throw, letting Apollo work his healing magic on Aeneas. But the immortal creates a phantom image of the hero to distract the army while he safely whisks the real Aeneas away. Around this false vision, the greatest champions of both sides continue their deadly dance. Now, the bronze-armored Lord of Carnage himself joins the fray at Apollo's urging. The war deity takes the form of Acamas, leader of the Thracians, and his voice rings out to rally the defenders. Sons of Priam, how long will you let your people be slaughtered by the Argives? Will you wait until they reach our very gates? Aeneas lies wounded, the one we honored like godlike Hector. Come, let's save our noble comrade from the chaos. The immortal's words spark fresh courage in hearts weary from long warfare. Sarpedon, the divine son of Zeus who leads the Lycian contingent, finds Hector and reproaches him with sharp words. Hector, where has your courage gone? You once said you could hold this city with just your kinsmen and brothers-in-law, without allies or help from abroad. But now I can't see any of them. They cower like dogs around a lion. We, your allies, must do the heavy lifting. I've come from far Lycia, from the banks of the winding Xanthus, where I left my dear wife and infant son and many possessions that the needy covet. Yet still I rally my Lycians and am ready to face any warrior in single combat, though I have nothing here that the Argives might take. But you just stand there and don't even urge your people to defend their wives and children. The rebuke stings Hector like a whip across the face, for he knows the truth in Sarpedon's words. The greatest of Priam's sons has been acting more like a cautious general than the inspired champion his people need. But now shame and honor battle in his heart, and honor wins the day. He leaps down from his chariot, brandishing his sharp spears, and strides through the host on foot, urging his men into the clash of bronze. As the tide of conflict ebbs and flows across the plain, Zeus weighs the fates of heroes in his golden scales. The balance tips now toward the Argives, now toward the defenders, as mortal courage and divine favor rise and fall like wine in a mixing bowl. Heroes fall on both sides. Cleochimus, son of mighty Heracles, meets Sarpedon in single combat, and guies with the Lycian spear through his thigh, though not before his own bronze finds its mark in the Zeus-born warrior's shoulder. The slaughter might have gone on until sunset painted the sky red as blood, but the gray-eyed goddess has other plans. She sees that Ares himself fights among the defenders, lending his terrible strength to their cause, and she knows that mortal courage alone can't stand against such divine opposition. Swift as thought, she rushes to where Diomedes fights, still dripping with divine ichor from his attack on Aphrodite's son. Son of Tydeus, Athena calls, her voice sweet yet deadly. Why are you holding back from facing Ares himself? I'll guide your spear and drive your chariot. Don't fear the raging war god, that changeable madman, that thing of evil, who promised both Hera and me that he would fight against the defenders and help the Argives, but now has turned to aid the enemy instead. With these words, she grabs the reins of his chariot and drives straight toward the bronze-armored deity. Ares, seeing them approach, abandons his current victim and hurls his bronze spear at Diomedes. But Athena deflects the weapon with her hand, and now the son of Tydeus charges forward with his own spear. The goddess guides the point to where the war god's belt is fastened, and the bronze tears through divine flesh and sinew. The immortal's roar of pain shakes earth and heaven alike, loud as 9,000 or 10,000 men crying out in the chaos of battle. Both armies drop to the ground in terror at the sound, and the wounded deity flees to Olympus, faster than storm winds, his divine essence streaming behind him like a dark cloud. There, he bitterly complains to Zeus about his fellow immortals' favoritism, but receives only cold comfort from his father, who has little love for his son's joy in warfare and chaos. With both Aphrodite and the war power pulled from the field, things start swinging heavily in favor of the Argives. The son of Tydeus and his buddies seize the moment, pushing the defenders back toward the walls of Troy, leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. You can hear the cries of women and children echoing from the city gates as word spreads that the enemy is closing in, and those walls might not hold against this divine onslaught. But as the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the battlefield, even the Argive champion starts to feel the weight of being mortal. The divine fire that had surged through him, ignited by his patron, begins to dim, leaving him powerful but no longer the unstoppable force he once was. He steps back from the front lines, letting other heroes take the lead, fully aware that today's glory will be immortalized in songs for generations to come. The first day of this renewed conflict wraps up without a clear winner. The Argives have pushed closer to Troy than ever before, yet the city still stands strong. The defenders have seen their champions fall and their divine protectors driven off, but they're still standing and holding on to hope for a better tomorrow. As night falls and the funeral pyres ignite for those lost in battle, both sides take a moment to reflect on the heavy toll of broken promises and shattered peace. Hector stands tall on the walls of Troy, peering out at the flickering campfires of the Argives scattered across the plain like fallen stars. He knows that tougher challenges lie ahead. Somewhere beyond those lights, Achilles remains by his ships, still simmering with rage and yet to unleash his spear. The biggest showdown is still on the horizon, and when it hits, neither mortal strength nor divine backing might be enough to fend off the doom that looms over Troy, like storm clouds heavy with rain. The wind carries the smoke from the funeral pyres across the darkening landscape, blending the ashes of both Argives and defenders until, in death's embrace, it becomes impossible to distinguish friend from foe. Tomorrow promises fresh battles. New heroes will rise, and maybe, just maybe, one side will face the beginning of their end. But tonight, in this brief pause between the day's slaughter and what's to come, even warriors need to rest, and even heroes must close their eyes and dream of homes they might never return to. Nightfall, espionage, and the breaking point the sun sets like a bronze shield lowered behind the western mountains, casting the plain of Troy in shades of blood and gold. As darkness spreads across the battlefield like a shroud, both armies count the day's heavy losses. The Argive campfires flicker like fallen stars along the shore, while Troy's walls loom dark against the starry sky, their defenders nursing wounds and shattered hopes. In the Argive council tent, the greatest kings of Hellas gather around flickering torches, their faces grave with the weight of mounting losses. The son of Atreus stands before them, his royal authority dimmed by the day's reverses. Where once he spoke with the confidence of certain victory, now his words carry the bitter taste of desperation. Friends, leaders, and rulers of the Argives. The High King begins, his voice heavy with unspoken fears. Zeus, the son of Cronos, has bound me fast in grievous blindness. Cruel God, who once promised me with a nod that I would sack well-walled Troy before returning home. Now he has devised evil deception and bids me return to Argos inglorious after losing many of my people. Such, I suppose, is the pleasure of Almighty Zeus, who has destroyed the citadels of many cities and will destroy others still, for his power is the greatest of all. The words hit the assembled heroes like hammer blows. To hear their supreme commander speak of retreat, of abandoning 9 years of sacrifice and bloodshed, fills their hearts with dismay. Yet none can deny the truth behind his fears. The defenders grow stronger with each passing day, while their own forces dwindle like grain before the harvest. But Diomedes, still buzzing from his divine encounters, rises to speak, igniting fresh hope in hearts grown cold with doubt. Son of Atreus, I will be the first to oppose your folly, as is my right in this assembly. Lord, please don't be angry. You yourself dishonored my courage among the Danaans, calling me unwarlike and weak. Whether that's true or not, all the Argives know. The son of devious counseling Cronos gave you only half a gift. He granted you the honor of the scepter above all men, but he did not give you courage, which is the greatest power. Strange man, do you really think the sons of the Achaeans are unwarlike and weak, as you say? If your heart is eager to go home, then go. The way lies open, and your ships that came with you from Mycenae in such great numbers stand by the sea. But the rest of the long-haired Achaeans will remain here until we sack Troy. And if they too flee in their ships to their dear native land, then Sthenelus and I will fight on until we reach Troy's goal, for we came here with heaven's blessing. The young hero's defiance sparks courage throughout the assembly like fire catching in dry timber. One by one, the greatest champions of the Argive host rise to pledge their continued service to the cause. Ajax the Great speaks of honor that cannot be abandoned, while Odysseus weaves words of wisdom about the folly of retreat when victory may lie just beyond the next dawn. Even aged Nestor, whose counsel has guided 2 generations of warriors, adds his voice to the chorus, calling for renewed effort. As the council breaks apart and the heroes disperse to their ships, the night brings no rest to either army. In the shadows between the camps, darker plans take shape. Fear has made the Argives desperate, and desperate men turn to desperate measures. The need for intelligence burns like a fever in their commanders' minds. They must know Troy's plans, discover her weaknesses, and find some advantage that might tip the balance in their favor. Agamemnon gathers his most trusted captains in the deep watches of the night. The tent flickers with oil lamplight as he unfolds his scheme. We need eyes and ears within the enemy camp. Someone must penetrate their lines, discover their intentions, and perhaps strike a blow that will shake their confidence. His gaze falls upon 2 figures who have never failed him in matters requiring both courage and cunning. The son of Tydeus steps forward first, his young face grim with purpose. Beside him stands Odysseus, the fox of Ithaca, whose mind works like a spider spinning webs of strategy. Together, they represent the perfect combination. Divine blessed strength and mortal cleverness, the sword and the subtle word that together might accomplish what armies alone cannot. We will go, the Argive champion declares, his voice steady as bronze. But we go not merely as spies, but as agents of Troy's doom. If fortune favors us, we may return with more than mere intelligence. His companion nods, already weaving plans within plans, seeing possibilities that lesser minds cannot grasp. They arm themselves in darkness, choosing stealth over splendor. Gone are the gleaming bronze corselets and tall crested helmets that mark them as nobles of the battlefield. Instead, they don dark cloaks and soft-soled boots, carrying daggers rather than spears, becoming shadows rather than heroes. The transformation is complete when Odysseus places upon his head a leather cap reinforced with boar's tusks, a gift from his grandfather Autolycus, master of thieves and tricksters. The night swallows them as they slip from the Argive camp, like wolves on the hunt. Behind them, their comrades settle into uneasy sleep, their dreams troubled by visions of defeat and dishonor. Ahead lies the enemy camp, where Troy's allies keep their own watch against exactly such incursions. But the defenders too have felt the sting of desperation. In a tent pitched among the Thracian allies, young Dolon, son of Eumedes, makes his own bargain with fate. The youth is no warrior slender and swift of foot, rather than broad of shoulder, more fitted for running messages than fighting battles. Yet ambition burns bright in his heart, and he has heard King Hector's promise. Whoever penetrates the Argive camp and returns with intelligence of their plans shall receive the immortal horses of Achilles as his reward. The offer is beyond dreams for one of humble birth. Those divine steeds, gifts from the gods themselves, represent more than mere transportation. They are symbols of heroic glory, prizes that would elevate their owner to the ranks of legend. Dolon imagines himself driving those magnificent animals through Troy's streets while crowds cheer his name, sees poets composing songs of his exploits, and envisions a future bright with unimaginable honor. He wraps himself in a wolf's pelt, its gray fur making him nearly invisible in the darkness, and sets out alone into the night. His mission mirrors that of his enemies: to spy, to gather intelligence, and to return with secrets that might tip the balance of war. But where the Argive heroes move with the confidence of born killers, the young Thracian advances with the nervous energy of one who knows he is far from his element. The two missions converge in the darkness between the camps, like rivers flowing toward the same sea. Odysseus spots the lone figure first, his experienced eye-catching movement where none should be. He signals his companion, and together they melt into the shadows, predators scenting prey. The pursuit is brief and deadly. Dolon, for all his speed, cannot outrun men driven by divine purpose and mortal desperation. They corner him in a dry riverbed. The son of Tydeus' spear pointed his throat, while the son of Laertes prepares to extract every secret the trembling youth possesses. "Do not kill me," the young spy pleads, his voice cracking with terror. "My father is rich. He will pay you bronze and gold and wrought iron treasure beyond counting if you spare my life." But his captors' faces remain hard as stone. They have not come for ransom, but for information, and they mean to have it all. Under their relentless questioning, the young guy spills all the secrets he knows. He talks about Hector's plans for the morning attack, reveals where Troy's allies are positioned, and describes the enemy camp layout in a way that would make any spy drool with excitement. But the real gold nugget? He mentions the Thracian reinforcements that showed up after sunset. King Rhesus and his crew, camped away from the main force, feeling safe and a bit too relaxed. "Rhesus came today from Thrace," he babbles, fear making him talk without thinking. "His horses are the best I've ever seen, wider than snow and faster than the wind. His chariot is decked out in gold and silver, and his armor? Wow! It's so shiny and beautiful. It's almost too much for any mortal to wear. And there's this prophecy about him. If his horses drink from the river Xanthus and graze on Troy's plain, the city will never fall to Argive spears." This info hits the Argive heroes like a lightning bolt from Zeus. It's not just good intel. It's a golden opportunity that could turn the tide of the whole expedition. If that prophecy holds any truth, stopping those horses from drinking Trojan water becomes way more crucial than any regular victory. They don't waste a second debating it. The son of Tydeus pulls out his sword with cold efficiency, and just like that, young Dulon's head rolls in the dust, his dreams of glory snuffed out in a flash of blood and betrayal. There's no malice in this act, no special cruelty, just the harsh reality of war, where good men turn into predators and killing becomes just another tool of the trade. With their source of intel silenced forever, the two Argive heroes set their sights on the Thracian camp. They move like shadows come to life, death creeping softly through the night toward unsuspecting prey. Behind them, Ulan's blood stains the earth, while his spirit drifts off to Hades, his wolf-pelt cloak now truly a symbol of his fate. Meanwhile, the Thracian camp is blissfully unaware of the doom that's about to hit. King Rhesus lies in the center of his men, his stunning horses tethered nearby, their white coats glowing eerily in the starlight. After a long journey, his warriors have let their guard down. Sentries are dozing at their posts, weapons lie unguarded, and the overall vibe is that of men who think they're far from danger. When the attack comes, it's quick and silent, like a plague. The son of Tydeus glides through the sleeping camp like a shadow of death, his sword tasting blood with every strike. 12 men fall without ever waking, their throats cut before they can even dream. Right beside him, Odysseus works just as efficiently, but with different tools. His dagger finds its mark with surgical precision, and his hands keep any sounds from waking the sleeping warriors. Rhesus himself meets his end, just as he lived, surrounded by luxury, but ultimately powerless against fate's decree. His last sight is of strange faces looming over him in the dark foreign warriors, who mean his prophecies will never come true. But the real prize? Those horses. These stunning creatures, white as fresh snow and fast as storm winds, are more than just a means of getting around. They symbolize Troy's survival, a divine favor that must not be allowed to taste Trojan water. Odysseus leads them away with gentle words and expert handling, while his companion gathers the dead king's armor as proof of their success. The retreat through enemy lines turns out to be just as risky as the advance. Troy's camp starts to stir with the first signs of discovery. A sentry shouts a challenge, and voices rise in alarm. The hunt kicks off even as the hunters slip away into the darkness. But luck is on the side of the brave, and the two heroes make it back to the Argive lines just as dawn breaks, painting the eastern sky with shades of rose and gold. Their return lifts the spirits of the entire expedition. Where despair had taken hold, hope now blooms like spring grass after a good rain. The captured horses become symbols of new possibilities, while Rhesus's golden armor proves that even Troy's strongest allies can be brought low by Argive courage and cleverness. But a victory in the shadows doesn't guarantee triumph in the light. As the sun rises higher and the armies line up for battle again, the harsh reality of siege warfare remains. Troy's walls still stand strong, her defenders still breathe, and the greatest warrior of all the son of Peleus sits, brooding by his ships, his immense strength still unused for the common cause. The day's fighting unfolds with a grim predictability. Heroes clash in single combat, while armies surge back and forth across the blood-soaked plain. Wounds are dealt and received. Brave men fall to feed the earth's hunger, and poets gather stories for songs that will outlast the singers themselves. Yet, despite all the noise and chaos, neither side can claim a decisive edge. As evening creeps in again, both armies pull back to nurse their wounds and count their losses. The Argives have gained valuable intel and struck a psychological blow, but they're still far from victory. The defenders have lost important allies and now face the harsh truth that their enemies can reach deep into their territory. Yet their walls stand firm, and their spirits remain unbroken. In his tent among the Myrmidons, Achilles listens to reports of the night's escapade with the detached interest of a god watching mortal struggles. The capture of Rhesus's horses, the death of Troy's ally, the renewed hope in the Argive camp, all of it barely registers with him, like wind brushing against stone. His anger towards Agamemnon burns just as bright, and his determination to stay apart from the common cause remains unshaken. But even the son of Peleus can't completely escape the tide of events. As the siege stretches into its second decade and heroes fall like leaves in autumn, the pressure builds for him to put aside personal grudges for the greater good. Envoys will come, gifts will be offered, and pleas will be made. But the greatest warrior of his time has chosen his path, and pride might just be stronger than wisdom in deciding how this story will end. The stars twirl above in their eternal dance, while men below wrestle with questions of honor and duty, love and hatred, life and death. Tomorrow will bring fresh violence, new heroes stepping into the spotlight, and maybe the beginning of the end for one side or the other. But tonight, in this brief pause between one day's bloodshed and the next, even warriors need to rest. Even heroes must close their eyes and dream of homes they may never see again. The wind carries the scent of funeral pyres across the darkening plain, mixing the ashes of friends and foes until it's hard to tell one from the other in death's embrace. Somewhere beyond the flickering campfires, a nightingale sings of sorrows yet to come, its voice lost in the vast indifference of the starry sky. Patroclus in Achilles' armor, the morning sun rises like a blood-red eye over the plain of Troy, lighting up a scene of chaos that gets more desperate with every passing day. The Argive position, once safe behind their walls and close to their ships, now teeters on the brink of total disaster. Hector has pushed the invaders back to their very vessels, his bronze spear painting arcs of death across the narrow space between sea and fortification. The mighty wall that the Argives built to protect their camp, those heavy stones dragged from the hills, those ramparts blessed by their priests, now has 3 breaches. Through these gaps, defenders surge like a tide of bronze and fury, their war cries echoing off the black hulls of ships that once carried dreams of glory, but might soon carry only ashes and defeat. Smoke rises from burning vessels as Trojan firebrands find their targets. The acrid smell of tar and burning wood fills the air, while Argive heroes who once boasted of their strength now fight with the desperation of cornered wolves. The son of Atreus himself has taken wounds that would fell lesser men, while the son of Tydeus fights with his left arm bound, blood seeping through hastily wrapped bandages. Even Ajax the Great, a tower of Argive strength, is giving ground before the relentless advance. Yet through all this chaos and looming doom, one figure stands apart from the struggle. In his shelter among the Myrmidons, the son of Peleus sits still as a statue carved from marble, his divine armor untouched by battle sweat, his terrible spear gathering dust, while lesser men die for causes he no longer calls his own. The greatest warrior of the age watches his former comrades face destruction with the cold detachment of an immortal observing mortal folly. But if the hero's heart remains unmoved by the suffering of kings and champions, it cannot remain closed to the anguish of someone who is closer than a brother. Patroclus, son of Menoetius, stands at the entrance to their shared dwelling, tears streaming down his face, like a spring that runs dark water down a sheer rock face. His grief isn't just for the dying Argives. It's for the terrible choice his beloved companion has made, to let honor destroy honor, to let pride consume the very cause that pride was meant to serve. Why do you weep, Patroclus, like a little girl chasing after her mother, begging to be picked up, clinging to her dress and holding her back as she tries to go, looking up at her with tears until she lifts you up? The son of Peleus speaks with a bitter humor that can't quite hide his own pain. Have you some news from Phthia that I haven't heard? They say Menecius still lives, and my own father Peleus is still among the Myrmidons. If either of them had died, we would both grieve. Or do you weep for the Argives as they perish by the hollow ships through their own recklessness? The younger warrior's response comes from a heart torn between loyalty and justice, between love for one man and duty to thousands. Son of Peleus, greatest of warriors, please don't be angry, but look at the grief that has fallen upon the Argives. Those who were once the best among them now lie among the ships, struck down and wounded. The son of Atreus is hurt, and Odysseus, famed for his spear, and the son of Tydeus, all of them, hit by arrows or spears from men who fought from a distance, while healers rushed to their aid. Yet here you are, unmoved. His voice gains strength as passion pushes past fear, the words spilling out like water from a broken dam. I swear, may I never feel such anger as you hold, accursed courage. What good will you be to future generations if you don't protect the Argives from shameful destruction? You pitiless one! Your father isn't the horseman Peleus, nor is Thetis your mother. The gray sea birthed you, and the sheer cliffs made your heart so hard. But if you're avoiding some prophecy that your queenly mother heard from Zeus, at least send me quickly and let the rest of the Myrmidons follow me. I want to be a light for the Danaans. Give me your armor to wear on my shoulders. Maybe the enemy will mistake me for you and back off, allowing the weary sons of the Achaeans to catch their breath. We, who are fresh, might easily drive the tired fighters back to their city, away from the ships and shelters. The words hang in the air between them like a sword balanced on its point. Here lies the choice that will reshape destiny itself, not the grand decisions of kings or the clash of armies, but the simple plea of one friend to another, offered in love and received in the heavy silence of a heart torn in two. The son of Peleus feels something crack within his chest, a sound like ice breaking on a winter river. After 9 years of siege and countless days nursing his wrath, he has held firm to his resolve. No gift could sway him, no plea could reach him, no threat could shake him. But this cuts deeper than any bronze blade, striking at the core of what makes him more than mortal, despite his divine blood. His beloved companion stands before him, asking not for gold or glory, not for recognition or reward, but simply for the chance to die in his place. The offer is made with such innocent courage and pure-hearted devotion that even a hero's pride must bend before it, like bronze before the smith's hammer. Yet, granting this request comes with conditions that echo the harsh precision of fate. If you must go, the hero finally says, his voice thick with emotions he can't name, then hear my words and remember them well. Drive the enemy from the ships, that much I allow. But when you've cleared them away, come back. Don't get swept away by the joy of battle and fight without me against the horse-taming defenders, or you'll tarnish my honor. And don't lead the way toward Troy in the excitement of victory. One of the immortals up on Olympus might step in. Apollo the far shooter loves them greatly. Turn back when you've ensured safety for the ships, and let the others fight it out on the plain. This moment is heavy with unspoken tension, a weight that hangs between them, shaping the path ahead. The son of Peleus knows that he's crossing a line, yet the bond of friendship and love pushes him to consider this sacrifice. The hero's hands shake as he lifts his own armor-bronze breastplate crafted by divine hands, greaves that have never felt defeat, and the great shield that has turned aside the weapons of gods and men alike. Each piece holds memories of triumph, bears scratches from battles that poets still sing about, and carries a power that transforms its wearer into something more than mortal. As he helps his friend put on these sacred implements of war, he knows with a heavy heart that he will never see them or their wearer return. The transformation of Patroclus unfolds like the sun rising over the sea. Just moments ago, there stood a gentle youth more suited for music than for slaughter. Now a figure emerges, fierce in war, divine armor shining like captured starlight. The great spear remains untouched, that ash shaft, cut from Pelion's peak, tipped with bronze, perfectly balanced for the hand of the son of Peleus alone. No other mortal can wield that weapon, for it was crafted by the gods as a wedding gift when Thetis took mortal Peleus as her husband. The Myrmidons gather around their borrowed champion like wolves sensing blood. These men have waded through long months of inaction, their battle fury bottled up like wine in a cracked jar. Now, seeing their lord's armor and believing their lord himself has returned to lead them, they howl their joy to the uncaring sky. 50 ships they crew, 50 contingents of the finest warriors ever bred men who love the son of Peleus more than life itself and will follow him anywhere, even into death. The assault on the Trojan advance strikes like lightning from a clear sky. One moment, the defenders press forward with unstoppable momentum, fire in their hands and victory songs on their lips. The next, the Myrmidons crash into their flank like a wave breaking against stone, bronze singing its song of slaughter, while their battle cry shakes the very foundations of Troy's ancient walls. At their head rides Patroclus in his borrowed glory, the divine armor making him look as fearsome as its true owner. Trojans, who have learned to dread that gleaming bronze, fall back in panic, believing the son of Peleus has finally set aside his wrath to join the fight. Heroes who once stood firm against Ajax the Great and held their ground before the son of Tydeus flee like children before an oncoming storm. The tide of battle turns with shocking speed. Ships that moments before blazed with enemy fire are saved by Myrmidon spears, while the great breach in the Argive wall becomes a gateway through which death flows backward toward Troy. Patroclus drives his chariot through the fray like a god among mortals, his borrowed spear drinking deeply of enemy blood, while his voice rings out with battle cries that sound almost like those of his beloved friend. Yet even in the sweet thrill of victory, the seeds of disaster begin to sprout. The gentle youth who once played the lyre and tended wounds finds himself drunk on slaughter, intoxicated by the power flowing through divine bronze and blessed steel. Each fallen enemy feeds the fire in his blood. Each cry of fear from Trojan throats makes him feel more godlike, more invincible, more eager to press forward into greater glory. The warning words of the son of Peleus fade like morning mist before the blazing sun of triumph. What does caution matter when the enemy flees? What good is restraint when victory beckons just beyond the next charge? The young warrior sees himself in his mind's eye, driving through Troy's gates, standing triumphant on her citadel, claiming glory that will echo through the ages. In his borrowed armor, he feels capable of any feat, worthy of any honor. The advance continues past the ships, past the ramparts, out onto the plain where heroes have struggled for 9 long years. Behind him, The Myrmidons follow their seeming lord with unwavering devotion, while ahead, the defenders fall back in growing disorder. For the first time since the war began, Troy's walls loom large in Argive eyes, and her people taste the bitter draught of genuine fear. But up on Olympus, Apollo the far shooter is getting more and more worried as things spiral out of control. This mortal kid in borrowed armor is pushing his luck, reaching too high, and threatening to throw off the balance the gods have carefully crafted. The god's silver bow sings as he swoops down to earth like a shooting star, his divine presence bending the very air around him. Patroclus charges the walls of Troy 3 times, his borrowed bravery taking him places even the son of Peleus might hesitate to go. Each time, Apollo himself pushes him back, his immortal hands pressing against Patroclus's shield, a booming voice echoing warnings across the earth and sky. But the young warrior, fueled by victory and the power of his divine armor, makes a 4th attempt, sealing his fate with his own ambition. The god's rebuke is like a thunderclap. Step back, Zeus-born Patroclus. It's not in the cards for proud Troy to fall by your spear, nor even by that of the son of Peleus, who is far greater than you. Those words carry the weight of cosmic law, the unchangeable will of forces beyond human comprehension. Even heroes have to bow to such authority. Even the gods can't change what fate has decided. But the damage is already done, and the wheels are in motion. Apollo strides among the Trojan defenders, his divine presence sparking new courage in hearts that had grown cold with fear. He calls out to Hector and the other leaders, his voice ringing with urgency. "Hector, what's going on? Are you really going to run from the Argives like scared sheep?" Patroclus has rallied the Danaans who are just sitting by their ships. That's not the son of Peleus. He's still holding back. But this one is causing real trouble, so stand your ground. The counterattack builds like a thunderstorm brewing on a hot summer day. Where chaos ruled just moments ago, now a sense of purpose takes over. Trojan heroes who had scattered before the Myrmidon charge remember their duty to protect their homes, while their allies recall the oaths that brought them to this distant land. The tide of battle shifts again as divine will pushes back against mortal ambition. In the heart of the storm stands Hector, son of Priam, the greatest warrior among mortals, except for one. His bronze spear is eager for blood, and his voice cuts through the chaos, turning panic into determination, fear into fury. He sees the borrowed armor gleaming amidst the chaos and knows his moment has arrived, the chance to strike a blow that will be remembered forever, to claim a victory that justifies all the blood and tears spilled over 9 long years of siege. The duel, when it comes, unfolds with the terrible inevitability of tragedy. Patroclus, for all his gentle heart and borrowed courage, is not the son of Peleus. The divine armor can make him appear invincible, but it cannot grant him the skill of hands that have trained since childhood, the strength of limbs blessed by immortal blood, the terrible experience of one who has never known defeat. Yet the youth fights with the desperation of love itself, knowing that his friend's honor rests upon his shoulders, that thousands of lives hang in the balance of this single combat. His spear finds its mark more than once, and Trojan blood darkens the earth beneath his feet. For a moment, just a moment, it seems the impossible might occur, that love and loyalty might triumph over fate itself. Zeus's golden scales tip dangerously toward doom. Hector's spear, guided by divine will and mortal skill, finds that tiny gap between breastplate and helmet, the spot where death waits patiently like a spider in its web. Bronze meets flesh with a sound like tearing silk, and Patroclus feels his strength drain away like wine from a broken jar. As he falls, his borrowed armor scatters around him like petals from a wilting flower. His last words carry a prophecy more chilling than any oracle's warning. You boast now, Hector, but I tell you that death and fate are closing in. By the hands of noble Peleus' son, you will be slain. Those words linger in the air like smoke from a sacrifice, a curse and a promise wrapped in the rattle of a dying breath. The armor of Peleus' son bronze, blessed by gods, steel tempered in starfire, passes into enemy hands, like a kingdom falling to siege. Hector strips the divine gear from the cooling body, while the battle rages around them with renewed fury. Both sides sense that something fundamental has shifted, that the rules of this conflict have been rewritten in blood and prophecy. In his shelter by the ships, the greatest warrior of the age feels his heart shatter like a cup dropped on stone. No messenger brings him news, no herald announces his loss. Yet he knows with the certainty of divine blood that his other half no longer walks beneath the sun. The wail that escapes his throat echoes across the wine dark sea, a sound of grief so raw and terrible that even the immortals pause in their schemes to listen. Thetis hears her son's cry across the ocean's depths and knows that fate has turned toward an ending. Rising from her silver chambers beneath the waves, she comes like dawn breaking over mountains, her immortal beauty shadowed by a sorrow deeper than the sea itself. She finds her child rolling in the dust like a madman, his divine features twisted by grief beyond mortal understanding. My son, she whispers, her voice like waves crashing on the shore. Why do you weep? What sorrow has gripped your heart? But she already knows the answer, for the threads of destiny are clear to her immortal sight, converging on this moment like rivers flowing to the sea. The son of Peleus lifts his head, eyes red with tears, voice cracking with anguish. Mother, everything the Olympians promised has come to pass. But what joy do I find in this, when my dear companion has perished? Patroclus, whom I loved more than anyone else, as much as my own life, I've lost him, and Hector, who killed him, has stripped away that beautiful armor, a wonder to behold, which the gods gifted to Peleus on the day they brought you to a mortal's bed. I wish you had stayed among the deathless sea nymphs, and that Peleus had taken a mortal wife. But now you must bear countless griefs for your dead son, whom you will never see return home, since my heart won't let me live among men unless Hector first loses his life, struck down by my spear, and pays for Patroclus's death. His words seal his fate like bronze sealing a tomb. Silver-footed Thetis weeps tears that fall like rain on the wine-dark sea, knowing what this choice means. Her son, her only child, born of her union with mortality, chooses the quick path to immortal glory and early death. No power in heaven or earth can sway him from this course, now that love has turned into wrath, gentleness into fury, the protector into the destroyer. The sun sets like a bronze shield lowered behind the western mountains, painting the plain of Troy in shades of blood and gold. Tomorrow will bring fresh armor, forged by divine hands, weapons that will make their wielder terrifying beyond mortal comprehension. Tomorrow, the son of Peleus will return to the battlefield, bringing with him slaughter the world has never seen. But tonight, in this brief space between doom and the next, grief reigns supreme. The Myrmidons mourn for their fallen leader, while their lord tears his hair and cries his anguish to the indifferent stars. In Troy, Hector polishes captured armor, while his wife weaves shrouds she doesn't yet know she will need. And somewhere beyond mortal sight, the fates smile their terrible smiles, continuing to weave the pattern that will make this tale immortal. The son of Peleus returns. Vengeance and madness dawn breaks over Troy, spilling crimson across the sky like blood on marble, as if the heavens weep for the violence to come. Deep in the divine forges beneath Mount Olympus, Hephaestus has toiled through the night, his mighty hammer ringing against anvils that shape the weapons of gods. The armor he forges is beyond anything mortal hands can create. Bronze that shines like captured starlight, a shield that displays the entire world in miniature, and greaves that hum with power as they move. When silver-footed Thetis brings these gifts to her grieving son, she finds him still lying in the dust beside his friend's corpse, his divine features twisted by a sorrow deeper than any mortal can understand. The sight shatters her immortal heart again, for she sees not the fearsome warrior he will become, but the gentle child who once played on her father's shores while she sang him songs of heroes long gone. "My child," she whispers, her voice soft like waves lapping against stone, "let the dead lie. We mourn for him, but he has fallen by the will of the immortals. Accept these glorious gifts from Hephaestus. No mortal has ever worn such armor." She lays the divine gear before him like a priest arranging sacred offerings, each piece glowing with its own inner fire. The transformation begins the moment the bronze touches his skin. Where grief had left the hero weak, divine craftsmanship now makes him fearsome as a god. The breastplate molds to his form as if alive. The helmet's crest sways with a supernatural threat, and a light shines from his eyes that mortals can barely stand to look at. He is no longer the sulking youth who turned from battle over wounded pride. This is wrath made flesh, vengeance given form, death walking in the shape of a man. When his war cry erupts, it shakes the very foundations of Troy's ancient walls. 3 times he bellows his fury to the morning sky, and 3 times the defenders recoil in terror at the sound. It's not the voice of a mere mortal hero, but something far more terrifying. The roar of an earthquake, the howl of a storm, the crash of waves annihilating everything in their path. The battlefield feels the immediate and devastating impact. Trojan heroes who stood firm against Ajax the Great and held their ground before the son of Tydeus now flee like deer before hungry wolves at the sight of that blazing figure. Even Hector, the bravest of Priam's sons, feels his heart chill like winter at the sound of that supernatural battle cry. But before the son of Peleus can unleash his fury, he must reconcile with those he abandoned in his wrath. The son of Atreus, wounded and desperate, approaches with words of apology thick as honey. "Son of Peleus, greatest of warriors, I was mad, I admit it. One man Zeus loves is worth many troops. He has honored you and struck down the Achaean host. Blinded by my destructive madness, I wish to make amends and offer you boundless recompense." The gifts he offers would once have seemed priceless. 7 unfired tripods, 10 talents of gold, 20 gleaming cauldrons, 12 race-winning horses, 7 skilled women, and Briseis herself returned untouched. He promises cities and marriage alliances that would make the son of Peleus the mightiest king in all Hellas. But to the grieving hero, these treasures feel no more valuable than pebbles on a beach. "Son of Atreus," comes the reply, terrible in its calm simplicity. "Give these gifts or keep them as you will. But let us think of battle now. This is no time for talk and delay while work remains undone. You will see the son of Peleus once more among the foremost fighters, cutting down the Trojan ranks with bronze. Let each of you remember this as he fights his man. The armies line up with the seriousness of priests, preparing for a sacrifice, and everyone can feel that something big has shifted in the war. Where heroes once fought for glory and kings for honor, now divine wrath walks among them, not looking for victory, but for total destruction, wiping out everything in its path. When the son of Peleus finally steps onto the battlefield, the ground seems to tremble beneath him. His armor shines like a second sun, his divine spear is eager for blood, and his shield radiates a power that weakens strong men and sends brave ones running. Even his immortal horses, Xanthus and Balius, gifts from the sea gods, seem to sense the doom that rides with their master. As he climbs into his chariot, Xanthus the Golden suddenly speaks up, delivering a chilling prophecy. "We'll carry you as fast as the wind today, mighty hero. But your day of death is coming. We're not at fault. It's a great God and powerful fate. It wasn't our slowness that led to the armor being stripped from Patroclus. It was the best of gods, fair-haired Leto's son, who killed him in the front lines and gave glory to Hector. We could run as fast as the west wind, the fastest of all things. But it's your fate to be overpowered by a god and a mortal." The hero responds with acceptance of his fate and a defiance of death itself. "Xanthus, why do you speak of my doom?" "You don't need to. I know it's my fate to die here, far from my dear father and mother. But I won't stop until I've pushed the enemy to their limit in battle." With those words, he urges his divine team into the fray, carrying death before him like a flag. The slaughter that follows is beyond anything the war has seen. Where the son of Peleus rides, the earth turns black with blood, and the river Scamander begins to choke on corpses. Trojans fall like wheat before the reaper's blade. Lycaon, who once was captured and ransomed, finds no mercy now. Astropaeus, the ambidextrous spearman who throws 2 arrows at once, yet can't pierce divine armor. And many more whose names are lost to history. But simple killing isn't enough to quench the hero's fury. His wrath burns with the heat of stars. He drives the fleeing enemy into the sacred river, turning its clear waters red with blood, filling it with so many corpses that the current slows to a crawl. Here, in this holy stream that has flowed pure since the world began, he commits acts that shock even the gods. The river god Scamander can take no more. He rises from his polluted waters in human form. His voice booms across the battlefield like thunder. "Son of Peleus, you stand above all mortals in strength and in wicked deeds, with the gods always at your side. If Zeus has given you the power to wipe out all the defenders, at least push them away from my waters, and do your grim work on the battlefield. My beautiful stream is choked with corpses, and I can't let my current flow into the divine sea like this, while you keep killing without mercy. Come on, stop. I'm amazed, prince of the people." But the hero is completely consumed by a wild madness. In response to the river god's plea, he leaps into the water, his spear flashing like lightning as he continues his slaughter right in the heart of the sacred stream. This act of sacrilege shatters the last ties that kept the immortal powers neutral. Scamander calls on his brother Simwa, and together the 2 rivers surge against this mortal who dares to taint their holy waters. The rising flood threatens to drown even the son of Peleus. Waves as tall as trees crash against his divine armor, while the current grips his feet like fingers of liquid stone. For the first time since he put on his new armor, the hero feels fear not of death, which he has already accepted, but of dying in disgrace, swept away like a piglet in a winter storm instead of falling heroically before the walls of Troy. His prayer to Zeus resonates through both earth and sky. "Father, why hasn't any god shown me mercy to pull me from this river? After this, I swear I'd face anything. But honestly, my own mother is the one to blame, spinning tales that I'd meet my end beneath the mighty walls of Troy, struck down by Apollo's swift arrows. I wish Hector had been the one to finish me off. He's the best warrior around. At least then, a brave man would have taken down another brave man. But now, I'm stuck facing a disgraceful death, caught in this raging river like some poor piglet swept away in a storm. What a way to go." The prayer reaches the heavens, and help arrives from an unexpected source. Hephaestus, the master of fire and forge, unleashes his flames on the battlefield. The sacred river boils like a pot, killing fish and leaving eels writhing in agony as divine fire clashes with the immortal flood. Steam rises like the breath of giants, and Scamander cries out in pain. "Hephaestus, no one can stand against you when you burn like this. Stop the chaos. Let the son of Peleus drive the defenders from their city. What do their fights matter to me?" As the river yields and the waters recede, the war spreads to Olympus itself. The gods take sides with divine passion, immortal striking immortal in conflicts that shake the foundations of creation. Athena fells Ares with a great stone. Aphrodite leads her fallen lover from the field, only to be struck down by Athena's fist, while Poseidon and Apollo circle each other like wrestlers seeking advantage. But honestly, these divine battles up in the heavens seem pretty small compared to the real drama playing out on the ground below. The son of Peleus, having been saved from drowning, is back at it, cutting down enemies with a vengeance that's hard to imagine. Nothing stands a chance against him, not the strongest champions, not the sacred places, and not even the very rules of war. He's turned into a force of nature, unstoppable like an earthquake and destructive like wildfire. The slaughter pushes the defenders right back to the gates of Troy, where safety is just a breath away behind those bronze-bound doors. But just when it seems like the son of Peleus is about to claim victory, Apollo steps in with a sneaky trick. He disguises himself as young Agenor, leading the hero on a wild chase that gives the main part of the Trojan army a chance to escape. It's only when the god finally shows his true form that the son of Peleus realizes he's been played. "Far shooter," he shouts at the disappearing god, his voice thick with frustration. "You've totally cheated me by steering me away from the wall. So many more would have fallen if you hadn't robbed me of my glory and saved them without a care for any consequences. Honestly, if I had the power, I'd make you pay for this." The laughter of the god rings out across the empty battlefield as the anger of mortals and immortals clash like metal on metal. But in the end, it's a standoff. The son of Peleus can't take down a god, and Apollo knows better than to confront the blazing wrath that's burning in front of him. The game between gods and heroes goes on, with pieces moved and sacrificed according to rules that mortals only catch a glimpse of in their last moments. As the sun climbs high and the heat shimmers over the blood-soaked ground, one figure stands firm outside the walls of Troy, while safety calls from within. Hector, son of Priam, and the greatest warrior except for one, stands there, like a statue before the Sion gate. His bronze armor shines in the harsh sunlight, and his spear casts a long shadow, marking the time of his fate. Behind him, the walls of Troy promise safety and the chance for many more years of life. In front of him, across the battlefield littered with bodies, death comes in the form of the son of Peleus, his divine armor glowing like a shooting star, spear ready to spill blood and settle the score of vengeance. Caught between two choices, safety and shame, or honor and death, the greatest defender faces a decision that will echo through time. The stage is set for the final showdown of this tragic tale. Two heroes will clash, but only one will emerge alive. The fate of Troy won't be decided by armies, but by the outcome of this epic duel between champions, whose names will be remembered long after the stones of their cities have crumbled. The wind carries the heavy scent of blood and smoke across the dark plain, while in the distance a nightingale sings of sorrows yet to come. Hector's fall, Priam's grief. The greatest champion of Troy stands alone before the Scaean gate, looking like a bronze statue come to life. His shadow stretches long and dark across the stones, smoothed by the feet of countless heroes before him. Behind him, the city's walls promise safety and the hope of survival. In front of him, across a plain littered with corpses, comes death itself, the son of Peleus, clad in divine armor, terrifying as a god among mere mortals. For 9 long years, Hector has been Troy's shield and spear, her greatest hope and strongest defense. He has taken on the fiercest champions of the Argive army and come out on top, standing firm when others ran, shouldering the hopes of an entire people upon his bronze-clad back. But now, as he watches that blazing figure approach, filled with murderous intent, even the bravest of Priam's sons feels fear creep into his heart like ice. From the heights of Troy, his aged father sees the doom approaching and tears at his gray hair in despair. "Hector!" the old king cries, his voice breaking with love and desperation. "My dear son, don't face that man alone without allies. You'll meet your doom at the hands of the son of Peleus, who is far stronger than you. Oh, if only he were as dear to the gods as he is to me. Then dogs and vultures would feast on him, and my heart would be free of this bitter grief. He has robbed me of so many noble sons, either killing them or selling them far away. Come back within the walls, my child, and be the savior of Troy's men and women. Don't give glory to the son of Peleus and lose your own precious life." His mother, Hecuba, joins in the lament, her heart breaking as she recalls the breast that once nourished him. "Hector, my child, remember this breast that soothed your sorrows. Ward off this dangerous man from within the walls. Don't stand against him, ruthless one. If he kills you, I'll never mourn you on your deathbed, nor will your richly dowered wife. Instead, you'll be far from us, by the ships of the Argives, and wild dogs will devour you." But their pleas fall on ears deafened by the call of honor. The defender of Troy knows that to flee now would mean eternal shame. The greatest warrior cannot save his own life at the expense of his city's hope. Better to face death with glory than to live knowing cowardice opened Troy's gates to her enemies. His mind is made up. Here he will stand. Here he will fight. Here he will die if the fates decree it. Yet when that fearsome figure draws near enough for Hector to see his features, when divine armor shines like the sun, and an immortal spear thirsts for blood, even his heroic resolve falters. The son of Peleus approaches, like wildfire consuming everything in its path, like an earthquake shaking the very ground beneath him, like death itself taking shape. In the face of such supernatural fury, what mortal courage can hold firm? Fear, raw and undeniable, grips Troy's greatest champion. 3 times he runs around the city's walls, with the son of Peleus hot on his heels, bronze-shod feet pounding against stone as the watching gods weigh this final contest in their golden scales. Athena and Apollo hover nearby, ready to intervene, while Zeus himself holds the balance that will decide not just the fate of two heroes, but the destiny of Troy itself. On the fourth lap, divine treachery decides the outcome. Athena takes on the guise of Deiphobus, Hector's beloved brother, and calls out with sweet words. "Dear brother, swift-footed vengeance is hot on your heels, chasing you around Priam's city. Come, let's stand together and fend him off." The deception is flawless, the false hope cruel beyond measure, as the goddess gives Hector the courage to make his stand, only to snatch it away at the crucial moment. The duel that follows will be remembered as long as men have voices to sing of heroes. Both warriors stop, panting from their run around the walls, divine and mortal bronze glinting in the harsh sunlight. They are evenly matched in skill, but one crucial difference remains. While Hector fights with mortal strength, his opponent draws upon a power from Olympus itself. Son of Peleus, Hector calls across the space between them, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his heart. "I will no longer flee from you. I ran 3 times around the great city of Priam without daring to face you. Now my heart tells me to stand and confront you. I will either kill or be killed. But let's swear oaths before the gods, who will be the best witnesses to our agreement. I won't mistreat your body if Zeus grants me victory, and I take your life. But when I've stripped off your glorious armor, I'll return your corpse to the Achaeans. Promise you'll do the same." But mercy finds no home in the heart of the son of Peleus. His reply is cold as a winter wind over a graveyard. "Hector, don't talk to me about oaths, you cursed one. Just as there are no faithful oaths between lions and men, nor harmony between wolves and lambs, there can be no love between us, nor oaths until one of us falls and feeds Ares with his blood. Remember your skills now. You must be a brave warrior. There's no escape for you now. Athena will soon bring you low by my spear, and you will pay for all the sorrows of my friends whom you've killed." The tension hangs thick in the air as they prepare for battle, each man knowing what's at stake. The world around them fades, leaving only the clash of wills and the weight of destiny. Hector, fueled by honor and the hope of his people, readies himself for the fight of his life. The son of Peleus, driven by rage and the thirst for vengeance, stands poised to claim victory. As they charge at each other, the outcome of their clash will not only decide their fates, but echo through the ages, forever shaping the story of Troy. The first throw comes from the son of Peleus, his divine spear flying straight toward Hector's throat, like fate itself. But Hector sees it coming and ducks low, the bronze tip whizzing over his head and burying itself in the ground behind him. Athena snatches it back instantly, invisible to mortal eyes, and places it back in her champion's hands, leaving Hector thinking his enemy is now weaponless. Now, Hector hurls his own bronze-tipped spear, and his aim is spot on. The spear strikes squarely in the center of his opponent's shield, ringing out like a temple bell, but divine craftsmanship easily deflects mortal strength. The weapon bounces harmlessly away, leaving Hector staring in disbelief at arms he thought would surely pierce any bronze ever made. He turns to grab another spear from his brother Deiphobus, but the illusion has vanished like morning mist. The harsh reality hits him. He's been deceived by the gods, left to face divine wrath with only his mortal strength. In this moment of utter despair, Hector finds his true nobility. "Ah," he calls out, his voice carrying across the plain with chilling clarity, "the gods have summoned me to death. I thought Deiphobus was near me, But he's within the walls, and Athena has tricked me. Now, evil death is close, and there's no escape. This must please Zeus and his far-shooting son, who once defended me. But now my fate has caught up with me. Let me not die without effort and in disgrace, but in doing something great for others to remember. Drawing his great sword, he charges with the desperation of a cornered lion, the bronze singing as it leaves the scabbard. But the son of Peleus meets him with his recovered spear, aiming for the one gap in Hector's armor, that small space beneath the chin where helmet and corselet don't quite meet. The bronze enters cleanly, sliding between the bones of the neck, but missing the windpipe, allowing Hector to still speak. Troy's champion falls backward into the dust, his divine armor clattering around him like discarded dreams, while his slayer stands over him, satisfaction burning in his eyes. "Hector," the son of Peleus says, his voice thick with long-held hatred, "you thought that by stripping Patroclus you'd be safe, but you didn't think of me, who was absent. Fool, there was one left behind by the hollow ships, far greater than he who would avenge you. I am the one who has loosened your knees. Dogs and birds will tear you apart, but the Achaeans will give him funeral rites." Even in death's grip, Hector's nobility shines through. His final plea carries the weight of all human dignity. "I beg you by your life and knees and parents, don't let dogs devour me by the ships of the Achaeans. Accept bronze and gold, gifts my father and mother will offer you, and return my body so the Trojans and their wives can give me my due of fire and death." But vengeance has turned the son of Peleus more beast than man. His response strips away all pretenses of honor. "Dog, don't beg me by my knees or parents. I wish my heart would drive me to cut up your flesh and eat it raw for what you've done. No one can stop the dogs from feasting on you, not even if they bring 10 or 20 times your ransom and promise more besides. Not even if Priam offers your weight in gold, would your mother lay you on a bed and mourn the son she bore. Dogs and birds will devour you completely." Hector's last words carry a heavy prophecy that will resonate through time. "I know you well and saw this coming. I couldn't change your mind because your heart is like iron. But be careful, or I might bring the gods' wrath upon you when Paris and Apollo take you down at the Scaean gate, brave as you are." With that, death claims him, his spirit soaring from his body like a bird taking flight, leaving behind only the cold bronze and flesh that once represented Troy's greatest hope. What happens next shocks even the battle-hardened Argives. The son of Peleus pierces Hector's ankles behind the tendons and threads leather thongs through the wounds, tying the corpse to his chariot. Then he mounts his divine chariot and drives wildly around the walls of Troy, dragging his grim trophy through dust and stones, while the defenders watch in horror from their towers. 3 times he circles the city with Hector's body, the bronze armor scraping against stone, blood marking their path like a painter's brush on canvas. This sight completely shatters Priam's heart. The old king tears at his hair and rolls in the dirt, calling out for his son as his people weep for their lost protector. Inside the palace, Andromache weaves at her loom, her hands moving in the steady rhythm of women's work, dreaming of her husband's safe return. She calls for servants to heat a bath for Hector when he comes home from battle, unaware that he will never again need warmth from mortal fire. Only when the wailing reaches her ears does the terrible truth dawn on her. Racing to the wall like a madwoman, she sees the horses dragging what was once her beloved across the cruel stones. Her scream echoes through Troy as consciousness slips away like a bird taking flight. Hector, How unhappy I am. We were both born to one fate, you in Troy, in the house of Priam, and one in Thebes under wooded Placus in the house of Aetion, who raised me when I was small. Ill-fated father of an ill-fated daughter. Would that he had never begotten me? Now you are going to the house of Hades beneath the earth, leaving me in hateful widowhood in the palace. And your son is still just a baby, the child of you and me, doomed. The funeral games for Patroclus unfold over 12 days, magnificent in their scope and solemn in their purpose. Champions compete in chariot racing, boxing, wrestling, foot racing, spear throwing, and archery, while the son of Peleus gives out prizes that could ransom kingdoms. Yet through all these celebrations of his friend's memory, his own grief remains unassuaged, his fury unquenched. Each dawn finds him dragging Hector's corpse around Patroclus's burial mound, seeking some release from the pain that gnaws at his heart like a living thing. But divine intervention keeps the body from decay. Apollo protects his faithful servant even in death, ensuring the flesh remains whole despite its daily torment. On Olympus, the gods are getting pretty fed up with the whole situation. Finally, Zeus steps in, sending Iris to find old Priam for a mission that's going to push human courage to its limits. The rainbow goddess tracks down the old king in his palace, where he's drowning in grief, but still holding on to a bit of his royal dignity. "Divine Priam," she says, her voice smooth and commanding, "Zeus wants you to head to the Achaeans' ships to ransom your son. Bring gifts to win over the son of Peleus. Go alone. Don't take any other Trojans with you, just a herald, an old man to handle the mules and the wagon to bring back the body of the man whom divine vengeance has taken. Don't let thoughts of death or fear cloud your mind. This guide will lead you safely to the son of Peleus." The journey through enemy territory takes a courage that's hard to imagine. In a darkness thicker than a moonless night, the old king drives his wagon loaded with treasures past the Argive sentries who are under a divine spell. Hermes himself, the god of boundaries and transitions, is there to guide him, helping him navigate this crossing between the living and the dead. When they find the son of Peleus, he's holed up in his shelter, alone with his grief and his dark satisfaction. What Priam sees would break a lesser man. His son's body lies carelessly against the wall like trash, while the killer broods over his own wounds. What happens next is something that will be remembered as long as there are hearts to feel compassion. The old king approaches like a beggar, falls at his enemy's feet, and kisses the hands that ended his son's life. Remember your own father, godlike one, who's as old as I am, standing on the edge of old age. Maybe those around him are giving him trouble, and he has no one to protect him from ruin. But when he hears that you're still alive, his heart fills with joy, and he hopes every day to see his dear son return from Troy. But I'm completely unfortunate, having fathered the best sons in all of Troy, and I can say that none of them are left. This plea strikes a deep chord in the hero's heart, not the pride of a warrior or the rage of an avenger, but a simple human recognition of shared mortality and grief, connecting all fathers through their love for their children. For the first time since Patroclus fell, tears stream from those fierce eyes, and the son of Peleus weeps not just for his friend, but for the universal sorrow that touches everyone who loves. "Unhappy old man," he finally says, his voice soft like rain after a drought, "you've truly suffered a lot. How did you have the courage to come alone to the Achaeans' ships, to face the man who has killed so many of your noble sons? Your heart is made of iron. But come, sit on this chair, and let's keep our sorrows close. There's no point in cold lamentation. This is the fate the gods have given us wretched mortals, to live in misery while they remain carefree. The ransom is accepted, the body is treated with care, and for a brief moment, the relentless machine of war pauses to allow a bit of human decency. Father and son, slayer and slain, share food and wine, talking about mortality and loss, finding a bridge in their shared humanity that crosses the divide between Greek and Trojan, victor and vanquished, young and old. When Priam leaves in the darkness before dawn, he carries more than just his son's body. He takes with him the understanding that even in the darkest hours of war, mercy can bloom like roses among thorns. The son of Peleus grants him 12 days of truce for Hector's funeral, a gift worth more than gold or bronze. Hector's funeral unfolds with all the respect due to a fallen hero. For 9 days, they gather wood, building a pyre as tall as a tower, while the women wail their laments and poets create verses that will outlive the very stones of the city. On the 10th day, they burn the body with the proper rites, finally freeing Hector's spirit to journey to the shadowy realm of Hades. As the flames consume the remains of Troy's defender, both armies watch from their camps. The smoke rises into the still sky like a prayer, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire people. When the fire dies down to embers and the bones are gathered in a golden urn, Troy builds a burial mound that will mark this spot for generations to come. The war isn't over yet. That doom is still waiting, when wooden horses and burning towers will write the final chapter of this tale. But something has shifted in the cosmic balance. A fundamental truth about honor and humanity has been revealed in the space between vengeance and mercy, between the demands of glory and the claims of simple human decency. The funeral fires of Hector burn low as evening settles over the wine-dark plain. The long shadow of Troy, as the funeral fires for Hector flicker low. The evening wraps around the wine-dark plain, and the smoke curls up into a sky heavy with the ashes of heroes. The walls of Troy stand tall against the fading light, but the city behind them is forever changed by the loss of its greatest champion. Meanwhile, in the Argive camp, Achilles sits by his ships. His fierce anger has cooled, but he knows what's coming next. The war isn't over, even if the poet's voice falls silent here. Other bards will pick up the tale of Amazon queens, Ethiopian princes, wooden horses, and burning towers. They'll sing of that final night when the ancient stones of Troy soak up the blood of Priam's people. But those stories are for other voices, other times, when folks gather around fires to hear how the mighty fall and how even gods must bow to fate. From this point, at the end of a long road paved with rage, we see how destiny weaves together threads into patterns bigger than we can fully grasp. Achilles has gotten his revenge, but the cost goes way beyond one man's sorrow or one hero's fall. By choosing the quick path to eternal glory, he set off a chain reaction that will echo through generations to come. The shadow of his own doom is already stretching into the future. Paris and Apollo are waiting just beyond tomorrow's horizon, the archer god's silver bow drawn, ready to shoot the arrow that will find that one weak spot even the greatest hero has. Hector's dying words hang in the air like smoke from a sacrifice inescapable as winter, certain as the stars' movements. Yet in that space between achieving vengeance and impending doom, something deeper about heroism reveals itself. When Priam knelt before his son's killer and kissed the hands that brought death, when Achilles shed tears for both his friend and his enemy's father, and when mercy bloomed in the heart of ruthless wrath. That's when we truly measure what makes a person great. It's not just about strength or skill with weapons. It's about the tougher courage of compassion. The walls of Troy will eventually fall, as walls do when the gods decide it's time. The heroes whose names echo through our tale will fade into shadow, their shining armor rusting in the earth, their voices joining the vast silence that swallows all human glory. But the truths their struggles reveal about honor, pride, love, loss, the bonds that connect us, and the passions that tear us apart, these truths will last as long as people breathe beneath the stars. In the years to come, when poets gather in grand halls to sing of ancient times, they'll tell how anger sparked this tale and mercy brought it to a close. They'll recount heroes who blazed like stars across the night sky, burning bright and fast before fading into legend. They'll weave words around the timeless questions that drove these champions to both glory and ruin. What's the price of honor? How much love can a heart hold before it shatters? When gods and mortals clash, who really wins? The answers, like the heroes themselves, slip away just as we reach for them. Maybe that's how it should be. Perhaps the questions are more important than the answers, the search more valuable than the finding. In every age, new heroes will rise to test themselves against these same eternal challenges, discovering in their own hearts what courage means, what duty demands, and what love can achieve, even in the face of certain death. The campfires flicker and fade along the shore of the wine-dark sea. But somewhere in the darkness, a poet's voice begins the ancient song anew. Sing, goddess of the wrath. And in that beginning, all endings are wrapped up, all stories find their start, and all heroes embark on their journey toward whatever immortality awaits, those who dare to live as if their choices matter, as if honor is worth any cost, as if love can triumph even over death itself. The wind carries salt spray across the darkening plain, mixing the sea's tears with the dust of kings and commoners alike. Above, the stars spin in their endless dance, marking time for both gods and mortals, while below, the great story goes on ever old, ever new, always singing of the glory and grief that make us human. This wraps up the tale of wrath and its consequences, of heroes and their choices, of the long shadow that Troy's story casts over all the days that follow. Let those who hear remember, and in remembering, honor both the fallen and those yet to fall. In the end, we're all players in the same eternal drama, all heroes of our own little chapters in the vast book that has no final page. The darkness deepens, the fires turn to embers, and silence settles over the plain where gods and mortals played out their eternal game. But the song goes on, and will always go on, as long as human hearts beat with the rhythm of courage and compassion, wrath and mercy, love and loss, the endless music that makes heroes of us all. And so, our journey into the past comes to a quiet close. If you're still awake with me, I hope this tale brought you a little peace. If you enjoyed our time together, a gentle like lets me know. And subscribing means you'll never miss the next calm adventure. If you know someone who might need a little comfort tonight, feel free to share this story with them. Thank you, truly, for being here. Until next time, I wish you the sweetest dreams.